Jim Ryan acquires retirement.
And Factions on ice. Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as always, closer than ever, leaning into the camera, one Christopher Figueroa. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I say real deep into the mic. No, I'm doing well, buddy. How are you this week?
I'm okay. It's been a long week.
Tell me about it. The less said about work, the better. So we're going to keep moving along. If this is your first time listening to the show, this is Triangle Square, the PlayStation podcast, where we talk about the gaming industry through the lens of being people who primarily play on PlayStation, but play a little bit of everything. So we will compliment or I guess satirize or whatever we feel we need to do to anybody in the industry as we see fit. But we always start to show off.
Hey, Brett, look, I got my Series S right next to me. 30 FPS Starfield's over there. Just kidding. I like Starfield and I like my Xbox.
Yeah. I need to start playing Starfield, but we'll get into that in here in a minute. So we like to start the show off in a time-honored tradition of basically catching up with each other by seeing what games we've been playing so that we can give each other thoughts about what we might want to play next or put stuff on each other's radar, but also maybe so we can put things on your radar that we think you should be playing and checking out. So, Chris, you've been in the past, as it were, this week, I feel like. I don't mean that in any kind of a bad way. So what have you been playing? Let the people know.
Well, I've been playing Titanfall 2, which has been very fun.
And what did you do in Titanfall 2?
First in the community to get top 3 in the leaderboard. Okay. Thank you. Take my applause.
Golf clap for Chris.
Appreciate that. You know, one-armed wolf got in there. He got it after me. Took me talking my shit. See, Brett.
Yeah, he got the sloppy seconds.
This is why I talk shit so much, right? It's all in good fun. It's motivation, right? If I didn't say I was the only talented person in our Discord, he never would get that trophy.
That is true. So you're going to be a motivational shit talker?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You just go around the entire country booking venues and as people are there, like, look at this fucking guy.
That's how this is a little bit of a tangent, but one of the ways I trained one of my leads who, you know, the way my company does it is you're training the next KM, like for if I move on or they need someone else, right?
Sure.
So I don't like the way he gets upset with people. Right? Because he's one of those guys who will tell someone to do something, they won't listen. And then he, instead of like getting mad at them, he just gets pissed off and just kind of like walks away and pouts. So we were in the middle of a busy shift and I just kept getting in his way, like knowing he was getting frustrated. I'm like, are you good? Do you need my help? And I would just get in the way. And eventually he just started yelling at me and I'm like, good job. I'm going to fuck off now. I thought it was really well. So that's how I'm going to go about it. Talk my shit.
Talk
Blake,
your shit,
you
Chris.
suck. You suck, Blake. Brett, you suck. Go get the trophy. You suck. I'm just kidding. It was very
I told you might have inspired me to do so.
I hope so.
I just don't know when, because right now you've inspired me very tertiarily, so like way off in the distance. You've gotten me to where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to replay Immortals of Avium for the Platinum because that's the only trophy I have left. All the trophies I have left can be summed up in a single playthrough of just the hardest difficulty. So, yeah. Gotcha.
Nice. Immortals is good. I haven't played it. I don't know why I said that. It was just my way of transitioning into my next game, which was Cyberpunk 2077. I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk
from what
2077.
I understand.
It's fantastic. We will talk more about Cyberpunk later in the show, I think. But, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I think when we talked about it last week, I'm doing a fresh save. And I think I just started the DLC, which is funny because I texted Sean, who we played Baldur's Gate with and we played Destiny with. I was like, so when does the DLC start? And turns out I had been doing the intro mission for the last hour because I didn't know when I could get there. So that's been fun. I highly recommend it. I think you should get into it. Then, yeah, it's weird to say, but I can't talk about the other game I've been playing this week yet. So in a couple weeks, I'll tell you what I've been playing.
Let me ask you this. Do I have access to that game? Because it looks good.
No. I gave you a chance to grab the code and you just didn't say anything, so I just did it. So
I looked at the video. Hold on.
Yeah,
I guess I'm confused because I was thinking we'll talk more about that after the show. There's no point in doing that here. It's all right. All right, Chris. I'm glad that you can't talk about the other game.
I'm playing
it looks
something
good.
I can't talk about. It does look good. I'm excited to talk about it.
Now I'm mildly disappointed in myself, but that's, I guess, technically my fault. I misunderstood the instructions. Yeah, my one and only is still Avium. I mean, it's funny because, you know, the one thing I kept seeing about that game is how short it is, and I have been playing Immortals of Avium almost exclusively for a month. And I know that half of that is just because my schedule was weird and I was playing so weirdly, but also, I guess, playing without a god and everything. I mean, I've been playing pretty naturally, decently throughout the week, and even like the past week where I've gotten to where I'm trying to rebalance my hobby stuff and my hobby, but hopes that it could be more stuff. I'm trying to rebalance all that to actually get to play more games because I was really screwing that up. And just in general, I think it was having an impact on my relationships, friendships. I was just trying to do too much. So I've kind of stepped back and reevaluated that. So I've been playing more games, spending more time with friends and family.
Good for you. Healthy work.
And with that, I've been playing a lot of Immortals of Avium. And I just last night got to where I was done with just the base game. So starting into the new difficulty version, which I should have played it from Immortal from the get-go, but I didn't even pay attention to the fact that there was difficulty. I didn't even remember choosing one when I started the game. I guess I'm so used to not thinking about it that it just kind of happened. And of course, I never look at or reference trophy guides, which brings me to a question. I'm looking at a trophy guide now so that I can make sure I don't miss any of the conversations that I missed out on in the first one. And there's only really one trophy guide that wasn't even up day of. So I don't think I would have been able to avoid this looking at a trophy guide anyway. I think I would have had to just outright look at the trophies and reveal the hidden ones to figure out what I needed to do, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to say this was probably bound to happen to me regardless.
I knew to start on Immortal. I'm just saying.
I'm glad that you did,
happy,
Chris.
Brett? You want to know what's making me unhappy? Are you done talking about Immortals? Because I want to complain real quick.
I am. Complain away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. But so the DualSense Edge, right? It's a great controller. I have one. Sure. It's $200. Mine's fucking broken.
I mean, yeah, go ahead. And how'd that happen?
Broken. I don't fucking know. The little plastic here is just it's coming off.
The rubber?
Yeah, the rubber.
Dude.
I'm about to raw dog this PS5 controller that cost me $200.
Let's have a little bit of a talk about that, because my Cosmic Red, or whatever you want to call it, controller, as I was playing through Avium, I noticed it's got some stick drift. First time I've ever had a controller with stick drift besides, well, a PlayStation controller. And I had the 20th anniversary Microsoft controller for Xbox that also developed stick drift when I was playing Oblivion. And I was like, damn, what the hell? I don't do anything to them. They sit in a drawer or on a charger most of the time. I keep them clean. And I went to use the God of War Ragnarok controller in place of my red controller because of the stick drift. And I started noticing that my circle button was sticking every now and then. And I'm like, what? I literally have played maybe 10 hours total up until this week with that controller since I've gotten it. It's just been sitting on the charger, getting cleaned here and there. And I was like, how the fuck is this already sticking? It really made me mad because it's just, and then I'm looking at my Spider-Man controller, which I've not used at all since I've gotten it out of the box. And I'm like, what the fuck is going to be wrong with you?
The R2 button doesn't work, which is great for Spider-Man.
That would be so funny. So yeah, it's been an interesting week for all of that.
It has. I was incensed when I saw that last night. It's literally just because of how expensive that controller was. It was like one of the $60, like my pink one, that would be fine. But this doesn't even have rubber on it. So you know what? I don't understand.
Well, this is exactly like I know that, maybe you should, just to see what they'll do, because I remember quality control was apparently really rough, at least on the first Xbox Pro Controller, Series 1. I don't know if Series 2 had the same issues or not. I didn't follow it that closely, but I knew a lot of people who were like, I love my Pro Controller on Xbox back when they came out, but they were like, the analog sticks are breaking left and right. This is breaking. The triggers are having issues. And it's kind of like, how the hell are you spending $200 on a controller that seems to have problems quicker and more often than the cheaper version? It's unfortunate. I just know I'd be pissed if I was one of the people that spent that money, you know?
Yeah, I'm unhappy. That's okay.
Well,
I still have this theory that either for my birthday in a couple weeks or for Christmas, I'm going to get like 2 or 3 of these. I fully believe, because here's the thing. My family doesn't ask my family asks what I want, and I won't tell them because I don't fucking want anything, you know? If I want something, I'll buy it. And I know that's just how it is when you're 30 years old. It's like, I can't suggest something to you because if I want it right now when you're asking me, I probably bought it, you know? Like, so
yeah.
I know they're going to be like, he likes games. There's this really expensive controller. I'm going to get it for him. And I'm positive I end up with at least one. At least one. But I wouldn't be surprised by 2. And I'm super curious to see. If I get 2, I'll send you one.
Bet, because I will never buy that on my own. It will not happen.
It's one of those things where I'm
sure it's a great
it.
Controller.
I love it. It feels really good. I like the sticks, the way you can change how the sticks press in. Never used any other feature on it. I've never used the back buttons. I've never used any of it. I thought I would, and then my hands don't work for it, so it doesn't help me at all. They're too big. I always press the buttons in the back. So let's hope I get my birthday present that's going to go straight to Brett.
Chris,
Brett,
it sounds like that you are experiencing what we call a first world tragedy. I
am, yes. Yeah. My remote just won't do what I tell it to.
I know, dude. Buffering slow in 720. It's not full HD.
Yeah. And you know what? I could really get this fixed if my parents' card hadn't been, shut off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Chris, is it getting hot in here?
Now, I think so. There's too many voices going on right now.
Man, this very long-winded Jared Alone's joke that like Donovan is like the only listener I know of who's going to be like, I get it.
That's only for 2 of you, but for the 2 of you it is. You can subscribe to the podcast on all podcast feeds. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/Nartech where you can spend $1 to support the show. You get all
for more bangers like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Chris. I think we've talked enough about what we've played. So how about we go ahead and jump into the community stake?
Go for it.
All right, let's see. Last week we were talking about, because of Rude Days 93, one of our longtime listeners and patrons, he was talking about the Capcom president talking about game prices needing to raise. And he asked a very simple question. So with talk of game prices needing to rise, what is the highest amount you could see yourself willing to spend to get a game day one as opposed to waiting for sales or having a game be added to a subscription service? So we got, as always, a lot of answers from patrons, a few answers without. If you are a patron, as a huge thank you for your belief in the show and supporting it with more than just your time, which we're so thankful for from everyone. We do give preferred reading. So the first one comes from Matthew Green, longtime listener, longtime patron. I tend not to buy games day one. Been burnt too many times with bugs, glitches, and not what the game was made out to be by developers, etc. No Man's Sky, for example. And No Man's Sky is such a wild example these days because it is a perfect example of everything he just said, or it was at launch. And that game has just gone on to be the gift that keeps giving for people that are into that type of game. But I understand completely. Kind of following up on that, we've got another longtime patron, longtime listener, Sir Derek. He says, strictly talking about base price of a game, I can see $85 to $90. And we're talking USD here. That's about how much deluxe editions cost these days, which is what I typically go for. It's not a huge difference, but it is a realistic for a base price increase. So I want to say one more that I think is kind of in the vein for that. And then I kind of think Chris and I can chime in a bit. The ghost of Blake Popes decides to hit his computer up and wail about not being upset that games are $70, but I'm far less likely to buy day one. Games are expensive and hard to make. I get it. But I also don't have $70+ a month every time a game comes out. I mean, October and February are like $500 plus months, which is a very, very good point and a good reason as to why I think I have really switched towards buying games when I'm ready to play them, with the caveat that I will buy games before I intend to play them if it's kind of like my turn in the rotation, or I feel like Chris has been lifting too much of the load, or whatever it may be. That's the nature of how we kind of buy for each other.
Yeah, exactly.
As weird as it is. So but I think kind of getting a feel of this, a lot of people are kind of looking at that going, like, we get the games should maybe be more than 70, but the number that was actually thrown around in there from Sir Derek, that 85 to 90, I think we were kind of talking last week. I think most people, and even most consumers who really are big into gaming, and the people who are casual, who play 1 or 2 games a year, will still buy those 1 or 2 games a year if they hit $80. Easier than some people probably think. I really think $80 could be reached by the end of this generation. But I'm curious. I guess my question to you is, we've traditionally seen price increases come with new generations on games. Do you think that we might, for the first time, see not only the first price increase in almost 3 console generations, like we saw with this one finally bumping to 70, but before this generation's up, do you think it can get to a point where we see games take another step up before the generation even ends? Or do you think they'll just be strategic?
Well, I think they'll be strategic. I think it'll be, I'm almost wondering if we're going to start seeing, like, there's no $69.99 version of, let's say, Alan Wake 2, and it's only the $80 deluxe edition and a collector's edition. And it'll be like, you get 3-day early access and all this kind of stuff, but that's just what you have to buy. I wonder if we'll be at a point where it's like, yeah, we're selling you the base game, but it's $80 and you're getting a little bit of perks, but this is what we need to sell it as. Alan Wake's a bad example because I think that's 60 or 50, one of those two.
It is 60. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 60. So let's say, I don't know, Assassin's Creed or Forbidden West, right? Those come out with hey, you can play it 3 days early. If you pre-order, it's $80. You get it 3 days early. You get a suit or whatever. You get, Altair's suit or something stupid like that. And that's just how the games start coming. Because I don't think people are willing to...
I get what you mean, but I think the problem I see with that is, if that's really your only option, doesn't that just become the new thing? Like, okay, well, the new release date is just 3 days earlier. The new blah, blah, blah is this. Now, I could see a weird version of where they raise the price of all games to 80, but then they give pre-order bonuses like they used to, where it's like, well, it's still 80, but if you pre-order it, we give you 3 days early access. If you don't, you can still buy it at 80. You'll just have to play it day of actual release, and kind of try and middle ground it there. But I feel like games are in a weird way already doing that, right? Like we saw Diablo 4 get huge numbers of people buying the deluxe edition so they could play early. There were so many people playing early access that the servers crashed. If that doesn't tell you something, then a lot of the people that are going to buy that game were already in at that point. So in some way, I think you could probably look at the average purchase price of Diablo 4 is probably somewhere in the ballpark of $95.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot more of 3-day early access for a week. But then what's the terminal amount of time before the release date? You know what I mean? Before you're just punishing people, right? Like Spider-Man went gold, a week or 2 ago? What if they were like, $100, you can play it literally right now? Almost a month early.
Digital only, because like clearly we can't give it to a disc, but here, digital only. Yeah.
Pre-order on the PSN, it opens up October 1st. I would do that. You know?
Yeah, I think it'd be bold to see the industry do that for a number of reasons. They're already worried about spoilers as is. You're just going to open the floodgates, and then you're going to get bad press for people being like, oh, they let these people play early and pay, and now we're getting spoiled on a game that's really known for its story. Like a game like Diablo 4 is the perfect game to kind of do early access on, because most people are not playing Diablo for the story. If we're being honest, like I love the Diablo stories, but you're playing it for the min-max RPG gameplay. That's what you're doing. You're trying to figure out builds and go through. So people don't really care about that. But people are playing a game like Spider-Man, partially because you're Spider-Man, but also because they want to see this great Spider-Man story that can be impacted by seeing it early online, like some people are doing right now.
Right. But isn't that a sales pitch? Right? Can you not see the commercial with Yuri Lowenthal and Tony Todd, sitting at a restaurant? And
if you're poor, fuck you. But if you have money,
Najee or whatever, I can't remember his last name, is sitting at the other table and he spoils Spider-Man. And then Tony Todd starts laughing and Yuri Lowenthal gets upset. And then Tony Todd looks at the camera and goes, "Don't want spoilers. Buy the deluxe edition." And then Spider-Man 2, $80, 10-day early access.
What was that voice, Chris? Can I hear that one more time?
Don't want to get spoiled. By the early access of Spider-Man 2.
Why is your Tony Todd half a pirate?
Because I'm not that talented, man.
You know what? That's fair, Chris. No, that just screams of the, hey, fuck poor people. But if you've got money, you don't got to worry about spoilers.
Okay. Brad, can we just have an honest conversation? You're buying Spider-Man.
I don't even mean poor. I just mean in general,
Yeah, because I feel like if you're buying Spider-Man on launch, you're not a poor person. You're just not willing to spend $100 to play it 3 days early.
Yeah, because you don't have as much disposable income. So they're basically saying, like, if you don't make this much money a month to where you can just say, fuck you, then hey, fuck you.
Sony's like, send us a pay stub and we'll God damn it, this goddamn camera. Send us a pay stub and we'll decide if...
Chris, can I tell you something?
Yeah, go for it.
Can I tell you about this miracle device that will save your life?
Yeah, go for it. What's that?
Chris, there is a device that will contort its shape and attach onto random things, and it will open this jaw-like device to hold your camera so that it will not fall. And it's called a webcam holder. And they're available for the low price of like $10 on Amazon. Podcast companies hate me for this one simple trick, but there you have it.
Don't just hate him.
Yeah. All right. Well, as Chris fumbles there, I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of these up real quick. We got Jehudi MD, one of our longtime listeners and patrons. He says, I've tended, I think is what he meant, recently to take my time in playing games. I'll be playing my backlog and then working myself forward from there, which means I won't be spending much per game. However, I will be buying Rebirth day one, and depending on the history of studio, how much I'm excited for a game and how much that game has to offer, I would see myself spending tops of USD 90. Beyond that, I think a game would seriously need to offer a level of playability, enjoyability, such as Skyrim, Fallout 3, for me to consider plopping such amount of cash nowadays. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm curious about too, is I'm more curious in seeing the industry, even if it's happening by way of independent studios and independent studios making more AAA level games, and then more even also independent developers making indie games that continue to push the boundary. I think I would really like to see the industry be bold enough to be like, yeah, we made a game called The Witcher 4 and it's got 300 hours of content if you want it, and it's super detailed and there's all these different things, but as a result, this game is $120.
Yeah.
And then say, hey, this game is called Immortals of Avium. It's a shooter where you play for, 15 to 20 hours with some magic. There's a little bit of exploration and some puzzles and stuff. But, you're going to probably be done with it in about 40 hours. We're going to charge you $60 for this game. I really want to see that. But it feels like games feel strangle-held in this need to always be this one price, regardless of the quantity and or quality, where it's like, well, I know we made this game, but we're still going to be the same $70 that you spent on Red Dead Redemption 2, which had some of the best quality that you can get, at some of the longest aspects of of content that you can get in the game, but our little 15-hour story-driven shooter is going to be $70 as well. It's like, why? Why does that really need to be the case? Why can't we let a game like Red Dead be like, hey, we have way fucking more than an average game. You're going to pay more.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at some point, then don't you start getting judged harsher? People are already freaking out about Starfield bias because it's on Xbox, right? Sure. And what if we start getting, oh, it's on Xbox and it's $100. The reviews aren't real. It's just going to get to that point. But then I feel like this is just a whole slippery slope, and I think it might be the biggest reason why we don't explore more. Is like, what if The Witcher 3 was like, The Witcher 3 complete or Witcher 4 complete edition is $150, but you can get the main story for $60.
That would be really interesting. I don't think content packs
for $40 each.
I think the problem that you run into with that idea, as much as I like it, is that how do you fragment the game to pull that off, right? You can get the main story. Well, then doesn't that mean that suddenly you have to design a bespoke version of the game that changes when it loads and how it loads and if there's an open world and if not and how much of the open world's available? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it becomes a thing where it's like, now you're making 5 versions of The Witcher 3. How do you score that game?
You don't. That's the problem. But... I just think the slippery slope is there where it's like, okay, you don't want to pay $150. Here's The Witcher 3, but all the question marks are gone. Right? All the monster nests are gone. Here's the monster nest pack for $5. Here's the Bloody Baron quest for $50. And you have to build your game back up. And then it's just a matter of, it's literally that meme where it was, do you remember those memes, like old meme days for the old heads here, where it was like the cheeseburger and it was like games on the PS2. And then you see like the deconstructed cheeseburger and it's like art $2 and it's like the bun. And then it's like story $10. And then it's like the burger patties. We're just going to get that, except it's going to be real. But there will be people who evangelize it. It's like, oh, well, I got to play the story of Starfield for $20.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I kind of get it either way, but in a weird way, we actually had exactly what I was talking about in the past because of the physical medium, right? So if you had a really large game and you had to put your game on more disk and or a bigger flash memory cartridge, then suddenly Throw Banana at Monkey was like a $30 Nintendo game, and then Final Fantasy VI was like a $100 Nintendo game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that existed because of hey, this is a bigger game. There's more to it. Therefore, we have to put it on a more expensive cartridge, and we had to work more, so you're going to pay more. And it's like somewhere along the line, this idea of pushing more and more towards a homogenous price zone happened, and that's why you get stories where people are equally as pissed. And I say this strictly for exactly how it shows up, right? When you have this world where everything's being pushed towards a common price point, you get the story where someone looks at the order for $60 and they go, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. 5 years ago, I got Skyrim, which was like 20 times the order 1886 for the same price. What the hell happened? And instead of being, hey, can you believe I got a 300-hour game for the same price as I used to get these 15-hour games? And that's not the conversation that happened, because as we've started trying to push games into this thing where all games have to be a similar price point, suddenly people look at things and go, oh, and there's always waves within the industry. I'm really curious to see how Assassin's Creed Mirage ends up working out, because it's coming off of the back of a 300 plus hour Assassin's Creed game.
Seriously.
And this is a 100% the game in 40 hours kind of game. So
thank God, dude.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it comes together. But you have anything you want to add to that one before I get to the last answer here, Chris?
No, I'm with you on what you said. I appreciate it.
Okay. Last one here comes from Sweet Gran Turismo Jones. And I think it's an interesting answer because I think it's everyone's technical truth, right? He says, obviously depends on many factors and variables, but I'll give you examples of known quantities. Gran Turismo 7 and Red Dead Redemption 2, I purchased the special editions that I knew the extra content wasn't worth the extra money, but didn't mind and haven't regretted. Worth it. I'm very picky and I know what I like. I'd have no problem spending up to $200 on something if it was exactly what I wanted in a game. And I think that's everyone's real truth, is that if you look at a game and you see everything about it and it looks like it's ticking those boxes for you, you'll just be like, yeah, I know I want it. If you made me pay $200 for it, I'd still do it. You know what I mean? Chris, you always talk about your give me, what is it, Fallout 5 on PlayStation for $200 and you're there
day one. Absolutely.
Yeah. See, so everyone has that. Everyone, you know, if I could go back in the past, which of course I wouldn't have the context, but I think it's such a steal that I got Terraria for free, fucking free. Dude, I felt so bad that I got it for free. I've bought multiple versions of that games I've never even played. I bought the PS Vita version, which I played the shit out of, which was cool. I bought the PS4 version. I bought it on PC. I was like, yeah, they deserve money because I got the game for free to begin with, which was just an absolute steal. So it's pretty cool to see. But I like that answer because I feel like everyone kind of, there's a few games that everyone can go, yeah, if they showed that, I'd pay whatever just because. So interesting to see.
There's just tons of factors. Developers. Like, I think at this point, CDPR is like one of my favorites of all time. So I'd buy whatever they want for however much they want to sell it to me to. Or
see, but the problem is I feel like the only way you can change this industry is having someone of a reasonable scale, like CD Projekt Red, to say, like, listen, we're putting a lot of shit into this game. We feel like we need to pay more. And they may have been able to pull that off had Cyberpunk launched in the state that it's being received in right now. You know what I mean? Like if Cyberpunk launched like it is right now, people may be so high on CD Projekt Red that they're like, fuck it. If they say that The Witcher 4 is $120, guess who's fucking there day one? And I feel like now people are going to be like, $120? Do you remember what happened with Cyberpunk? You know, but
how
so
much
that's
does that
the problem
really
you get into.
matter?
Like, who would be the person now, though? Like, who would be the developer now that people would be like, oh, fuck it, it's going to be good anyway? Rockstar?
No.
Would it be, hey, GTA 6 is $100. Take it or leave it.
GTA 6 can cost however much it needs to. That's the thing.
Clearly.
They could sell, they could be like, we're selling it for $1 billion and people would buy it. Well, yeah, I guess
just
like
a world full of billionaires.
People, but
could you imagine a super exclusive GTA Online that's just all billionaires?
Yeah, exactly. But you can kill them in GTA 5.
That would be really funny. Yeah.
GTA Online, the poor edition.
The poor edition. All right, we're going to go ahead and hop into the news. We've got some interesting stuff we're going to do towards the end of this episode. Go ahead and tease a little bit. There's Chris had the idea of all these Topster 25 lists for games going around, and he thought it'd be fun for us to kind of do that. So we'll get to those eventually. But the first piece of news here brings some reflection and some question from some people, and I think reasonably so. So Naughty Dog's long gestating spinoff of The Last of Us multiplayer has been met with more trouble. In an increasingly rare move, Kotaku broke some news where they revealed that about 25 people, mostly contractors and quality assurance employees, have been laid off from Naughty Dog. They report that full-time staff appear to have been mostly skipped here. As of July, Naughty Dog apparently boasted a staff of around 400 heads. Wildly, Naughty Dog was allegedly pressuring all employees to keep the news quiet and that the layoffs wouldn't take effect until the end of October, and the affected employees are expected to work for that time. They continue on to the interesting part. Factions is apparently on life support. The article says that while the project is not fully canceled, it is, quote, on ice, just like your favorite play. This is... So there's a lot to be said within here. And there was a question that came in, and I think we're going to kind of talk about it within the context of this question, because as this was posted in the Discord this morning, I kind of made a note, and I think Chris and I may be more in line than our initial words felt like, but we'll definitely find that out here. Jehudi, he ended up quoting something I said, where I said, I'm really starting to think that Sony is going to mess with their own identity in the market with their push toward making long-running devs develop projects that aren't in the scope or wheelhouse. At the end of the day, if Sony wanted the Last of Us games as a service game, maybe they should have just given it to a developer with the pedigree to make it work in that space. I'd love to be wrong. The developers are happy to be experimenting in a new design arena, but if they aren't, Sony has made their name as a premier single-player publisher and attracted talent toward that. So you can't be surprised if these plans aren't going as intended. And so to that, Jehudi said, that was going to be my question to you and Chris for tonight's episode, and it's enough for me as an answer, and that's how I feel. Sony is heading with their games, which is unfortunate. Whether it's too late to pivot back or that high risk / high reward money is something they want to run after remains to be seen. And I know Chris kind of had a pushback that I agree with in a lot of ways. There's parts where it helped fill in the vagueness of mine. But Chris, go ahead and kind of give your overarching statement. We'll go from there.
I guess my main takeaway was that I'm not worried about Sony's future right now. Well, it's hard because I think when I went back and forth with TT Dog, it's more that it's not that I'm not concerned. Like, I think there's no issues, but right now, from what I understand, Factions was a Naughty Dog decision, right? So I'm not seeing this as Jim Ryan's games as a service, movement is failing right now. I like I said, I see it as Naughty Dog wanted to make a multiplayer mode, and then Naughty Dog felt how big their swinging dick was and was like, we can make this better. And then they got ahead of their skis, and now they don't know what they're doing. That's just like an honest take on everything. You know, when Bungie walks into your studio and goes, this isn't going to do it. This is not, and I've seen a lot of people say, like, I think, Colin said it, and I saw it on Twitter a lot today, where it's like, well, why couldn't it just be a multiplayer game? And you gotta think.
See, I didn't see that on Twitter, but I'll give you, that was my split of it, because I think you're right? I don't think that we're seeing mass examples of Sony forcing developers necessarily to work against their will.
This isn't BioWare making Anthem.
My viewpoint of what happened, and a lot of this comes down to we're making assumptions in areas that we don't know all the specifics in. That's really what's happening. But you're right. I think if you look at it, Factions seem to be something that Naughty Dog themselves felt like they wanted to break away from The Last of Us 2 and make it a bigger game that was by itself. It was their own project. But I'm kind of leaning towards what you just said, which I haven't seen anyone say, but I do feel like it's the obvious thing. I feel like what happened is, yes, Naughty Dog wanted to make a multiplayer game. They thought of a way to make it a bigger scale. And then I think what happened is that decision and that development plan started well before Bungie came into play and that acquisition came into play. And what I think happened, and my assumption I'm making right now, or at least a possibility that I can see, is that the version of the game that was there was probably a fine game, well made, and would probably attract a similar audience to what we saw with Factions, but also probably with the original Factions, but also probably with a similar drop-off in the long run. I think what happened is that Bungie came in, and Bungie said, well, Sony wants us to look over their games as a service thing, and this is a game that's a clear candidate for games as a service. And what Bungie said is, what you're doing right now doesn't matter if it's good or whatever. This is not going to work as a games as a service. And so I guess what I mean is that we're having two people kind of at odds with each other. I think that they probably had a great Naughty Dog game and a great Naughty Dog multiplayer mode that people would have really enjoyed, but it would have suffered the exact same fate to its benefit or to its detriment that all Naughty Dog games have, to where it'll get really big for a while, it'll make them some money, and then people will naturally drift off of it as other games come into the limelight, or definitely as more games as a service type games get new seasons and new updates. And eventually this game would fail to see enough support, and it would eventually just be not closed down, but relegated to exactly where Factions is right now, where you can go and play it anytime you want, but it's not always the most booming online. And it's not seeing any more updates. That's the version of it that I see. I see that Naughty Dog's version of the game that they wanted, and it was more in line with what a Naughty Dog multiplayer project is, most likely doesn't jive with an actual games as a service marketplace. And if that's what this game is intended to be, Bungie had to make the call of this ain't it. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I think all I'm saying there is you could release this and probably make money off of it. Maybe not as much as you wanted, but it would probably be a successful project. And that was the end of it. But that's not what Sony's looking for right now, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that's the point, right? If we're being like pragmatic, thinking about what a company would do, right? Let's say they spent $100 million on this, and then you sell 10 million copies, you know, or let's say you sell 1 million copies. It's a multiplayer game, so you're making $60 million. You haven't even come up with the money yet, and then the game dies, right? And I think that's one of the things, right? I wouldn't be surprised if what happened was Neil and the Last of Us team were like, we have this multiplayer mode we want to expand. And they're like, okay, but you have to make it a games as a service because it's going to cost too much money as a standalone game to just be the Last of Us Factions. That's, I think, the thing, right? It's like, yes, I would love it if this was just a factions mode. I could spend $40 on it or whatever, and we could play it for 3 weeks and then it was over. But it's not worth investing in a game that you play for 3 weeks and end. If it had been included with The Last of Us, fine, okay, that's cool. But I think if you look at it from a company perspective, spending however much money they're spending on this game for it not to last and not to make them money in the back end is not a worthy and worthwhile investment. That is not a waste of money, but these companies, like we've said before on the show, they're not your friends. Mm-hmm. Jim Ryan would sell you a disc with nothing on it if you would spend $70 on it, you know? So they're not going to put and funnel money into a game just because it's a Naughty Dog game. Because here's the thing, this game never sees the light of day. They write it off and it's gone. This is what's happening with streaming, right? Willow, Batgirl, written off, gone. All that money's back in WB's pocket. So it makes sense as a company to be like, this isn't going to be sticky enough to make us any money. We've given you $100 million and you have abjectly failed the directive we gave you, which is you want a standalone multiplayer game, make it games as a service. You failed that directive. The guys we just paid $3.6 billion who do this better than anyone else have told you this ain't going to work. So we're shutting it down. Go make Last of Us 3.
Yeah. And I don't think you're wrong there, but I guess to go towards and I guess to say, I agree with everything you just said, but to the heart of what my original sentiment was there is that because of the fact that we're in this era where outside of Spider-Man 2 is like the only thing that we truly have on the horizon right now that we know and that we know and we see and we think, yeah, that feels like a traditional PS4 big AAA story driven. This is what I think of when I think of a Sony game, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the problem with that right now is like we can assume that of Wolverine, but Wolverine seems to be a good ways off, right? Yeah. We haven't really seen anything else on it. Most of what we're hearing about and all the chatter around PlayStation's internal studios are these games as a service games, which is not something that they are really known for. And we've even heard remarks come from not necessarily Jim Ryan, but like I'm trying to think of the name of the guy, Herman Hulst, where he was talking like the majority of their projects that are in development right now within PlayStation Studios are games as a service oriented. He called it like a 60-40 split with 40 in favor of 60 in favor of games as a service. And I do worry, like, is that going to mess with, again, their identity in the market? Sony's identity in the market against all odds was, look at this company who is still just making single-player story-driven games in a time where we're being told by all the other publishers that doesn't work. And they're reaping huge reward from it. They're getting big remarks and 10 out of 10 scoring games and some of the highest Metacritic games that we've seen in years. And then they followed up with games as a service. And you could look at it two ways. I think you could look at it like maybe they'll do for games as a service what they were able to continue doing with story-driven games. But I think if anything, Sony's been trying games as a service. And I know that's the new word for it. But in some way, Sony's been trying to make games that you will play forever and that they can update forever for over 15 years. and it's never worked. The only time it has worked is in mobile, which is the type of market that tends to do better in than console anyway. So it's interesting to see, because I'm not sure that Sony's identity in the console gaming space needs this on it right now. But like you talk about with the young guard coming in, how much of that is Sony trying to be like, we've been catering to the same guard for 2 decades almost, and we've got to start pivoting our way out of that and transition so that when these newer people come in who aren't as into this, we have a foundation and a plan ready to go. I don't know. What do you think of
that? I think it's a take I agree with, and is also short-sighted. Because
how so?
One,
I guess what part of it's short-sighted?
I don't. The fact that to me, I guess I'll just explain this in a different way. I guess maybe you can see if you agree with my initial take, because I don't necessarily know how to put it in words. But
okay, good.
My thought of this is kind of, and this is going to be one of my patented weird analogs here, but the games as a service push reminds me of in baseball. A baseball team resetting the luxury tax, right? And what that means is they spent above the luxury tax, which gets you a bunch of penalties. And then you go under that luxury tax. And what happens when you go under is those penalties are gone and you can spend back up, right? So my thought with the games as a service thing is kind of in that sense, where right now they're making games as a service because if one of those games as a service hits, right? If they get one Fortnite out of the 10 games they're making, Sony is a different company.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All the preamble there. I'm not gonna lie. You're over here talking about luxury tax, and I'm thinking, are we talking fucking Monopoly?
It will. If you know baseball, that will make sense, and that was the easiest way for me to form it in my head. But the thing I'm saying,
Chris, I don't know baseball, but continue.
Yeah, I'm not talking to you. If you do know baseball, no, I'm just kidding. The point I'm trying to make is that if you spend right now, right, on a games as a service game, and one of those hits, and you're making Fortnite money, or even Apex money, you know what I mean, that you have that kind of revenue stream, then you would hope in an ideal world all that money goes back into the studio, which is what I was kind of trying to get at, right? Is once you get over this hump of resetting the luxury tax and having a shitty year, and a shitty year to us is a bunch of games as a service games that we don't want to play. But once those are through, and if Fair Games or Concord hits and it's a great game and it does what Sony wants it to do, then that's a huge revenue stream that is just reinvested back into The Last of Us 3, or I don't know where this came from, but I saw Eye of Polaris from Naughty Dog. That was apparently the games they're working on. It's called Eye of Polaris and The Last of Us 3. Whatever. But the point I'm making is that money being invested back into those studios just makes those games better. And I think the one big thing that we're missing is Sony is, as far as I can tell, for the most part, outside of maybe Factions and MLB 23 The Show, is doing this outside of their first party. Haven, Deviation.
Well, their first party now, but yeah, outside of their pedigree.
They liked the game and bought it. Firewalk. What was the other one that they've done it with? It was Deviation. Deviation collapsed in on itself. Fucking Foam Stars. They're going outside of their internal studios and they're paying new startup studios to make them games. And they're also doing that with single player games. Supposedly that Bates Motel thing that we've been hearing about. I can't remember. Do you remember the studio I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
I'll look it up when
I'll
look it up when I'm done rambling. But they're making a single player horror game. They're the guys who have supermassive talent behind them, and it's supposedly a horror game. Codename Project Bates. That sounds like a single player game.
Yeah.
Right. So Sony is supplementing everything everything they're doing with single player projects. I think when you look at 60-40, I don't know that he's saying it's a 60-40 split where the games coming out of our internal first party world renowned single player studios are games as a service, but we're talking about Sony San Diego's next 5 games. We're talking about Deviation's game. We're talking about Haven's game. We're talking about Firewalk's multiplayer game. That weird fucking Pixel Opus game. Oh no, that got canceled. Never mind. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Canceled.
They're doing it. I think they're doing it a lot outside of the studios, which I think is really, I think should kind of put at ease a lot of people. It's like, yes, they want games as a service because obviously you want games as a service, even if they're small scale, right? I'm sure Sea of Thieves is doing great for Microsoft, just as I'm sure Grounded is. But that's what they're looking for. They're looking for those extra revenue streams. And you don't, the sad part is, as much as we like Dad Simulator and Horizon and Killzone and all of these things, you buy them once and it's over. And there has to be something in your portfolio that keeps
with the director's cut.
Okay, for sure. That's an extra $10. There's your microtransaction in your single player game. But even that is just once, you know?
Yeah.
Look at Marvel Snap. Obviously, we've talked about this. I'm a whale.
Yeah, they want you to buy that $25 fucking ship bundle.
Right.
Actually, it's more than that. It's like $28 or some shit. Dude, I like Sea of Thieves, but I'll tell you right now, and I don't speak for the market, but yeah, you're right, Chris. They want to find the 5,000 people that will spend $27 on a ship bundle once every 3 months, on top of the fact that they're paying for Game Pass, instead of worrying about finding 1 million people who will spend $60 on the game once.
Exactly. And that's, I think, why this push is so big. And I really do think it's important for Sony. This is not Microsoft, who has U.S. Army funding. You know, they're not the same company. Sony has to do this. Whether it works or not, and whether you like it, is one thing. But I do think that this is a necessity. When we just talked about game prices going up. Yeah, hit me.
A lot of people are talking about right now, right, in the game space. David Jaffe was talking about this not long ago, and a bunch of other people have been bringing it up. I think Peter Molyneux of Lionhead originally, you know,
fuck that guy.
Sure, he's an ass in a lot of ways, but to what all of them are saying is that the industry has continued to grow in a way in which risk are not worth it, and that used to doing a sequel was like frowned upon unless you were really going to make a big change and do something interesting and blah, 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 all these different things. But what I'm really getting at is they're talking about risk much in the way that we're talking about the games industry and its story-driven things, right? And this idea of what it is or what it was. Do you think that the risk in the game industry has moved from being about being a risky single player game and what you're going to do within the game that's weird? Do you think that risk has shifted to now it's that we're taking a risk on making a bunch of games as a service games in the hope that one sticks? And that's the new risk for games, and that they've just shifted them completely away from single player games and shifted it to this multiplayer sphere where it is high risk but high reward. Because in the reality, there's not a lot it's very rare, even probably more rare than high risk high reward on games as a service titles, that a AAA story driven style game is high reward in the same way that a Fortnite is, you know what I mean? Or that Fortnite's crazy. It's kind of a hard example, but even as a PUBG is, we'll use that as an example, right? PUBG was a fucking smash success, but it didn't hit Fortnite's heights. So, The Last of Us 2 did really well for Sony in a lot of ways. It clearly had some other stuff going on, but even a game like The Last of Us 1 or The Last of Us 2, which is a smash success in many ways, is nothing in comparison to what you get out of a risky multiplayer game. So do you think that risk has just kind of relocated within the industry, and now the risk is all about trying a gamble on a different format of game rather than necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel within single player?
Games as a service feels to me like betting on penny stocks, hoping that you hit big.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Whereas like single player games is like, yeah, I put $70 into Coke this week, and I'm going to get every month I'm going to get 25 cents for that $70. Right? That's what these two are. And single player for Sony is the bread and butter. It's the Coke. Like I just said, it's the Coke. It's the Procter and Gamble, right? But buying the games as a service game, like buying stock in Firewalk is basically like buying stock in Ring before it got big, or Uber before it got big. You're pretty sure it's a good idea, and you think people are going to adopt buying a car, some random person to come pick you up and take you to your destination on the phone, but you're not sure. But then, oh look,
yeah,
Ring hit, Uber hit. You know, right now they're taking bets on Uber and Ring, and we're at the infancy of those companies. This is before Uber or Ring got bought by Amazon. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at right now. And the thing I find the funniest about this, right, is Sony gets dragged over the coals for all their games are cinematic movies with a third person over the shoulder perspectives of a dad taking a child somewhere. And then Sony's like, yeah, we're shifting away from that, and we're going to try making some multiplayer live service games. You're like, no, where's God of War 17? You can't have it both ways. You can't. Like, if you want them to make a shooter, it's going to be a game as a service. That's the industry now, right? You're not going to get Resistance 1, 2, and 3. Those games didn't do well. I'm sorry to tell you. Okay, this reminds me of people who are like, where's the Metroid game? It's like, well, those games have sold a grand total of 100 copies total. So, you know what? That's why we didn't make any more Metroid games. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You know, Resistance failed. Killzone failed. It was that when games were cheaper, you could sell 2 million copies of Killzone. Be like, hell yeah, that was great. You can't sell 2 million copies of Killzone now.
Yeah,
you got to sell 10 million.
It goes back to, I remember when the Konami conversation was happening, and even legacy titles like Metroid is a good example for Nintendo, because there are IP that everyone pretty much in gaming knows.
Yeah.
But they hardly ever get new entries. And when they do get releases, it's almost always, hey, here's the classic game that select few of you really love that you can now access again on a newer system. And it's never, seldom is it, hey, check out the new Castlevania we're doing.
Right.
Because the reality of it is that everyone knows what Castlevania is. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much, everyone knows what Metroid is. Everyone knows what Metroidvanias are.
Right.
But the reality of it is despite being amongst the most well-known IP in the industry, if they release a brand new Metroid today, right now, it's probably going to sell, if it's lucky, a few million.
Yeah. Look, I'm begging. I've been begging on the show for a new Jet Set Radio Future. Yeah. A new Jet Set of any kind. You know what, though? The reality is I'm still waiting for reviews. Like, even if I do get it. And that's the thing. Like, these games are a risky business. And it goes back to the conversation last week where, and I don't mean to cast aspersions on you because I totally sympathize with where you were coming from, right? But when you don't support the devs with microtransactions and you don't pay, you don't want to put money in, and it's, I hope this game comes to Game Pass and I hope this game comes to PS Plus. These are all things that are deleterious to the industry, whether it helps the consumer or not. Sure, my $100 every once in a while, the Marvel Snap, or my girlfriend's $10 when she buys the Battle Pass, that doesn't make up for the development costs. But what does make up for it is me and 50,000 other people spending $100, and everyone buying the season pass, because guess what? Elsa Bloodstone's out today and the meta is changing. So buy the season pass so you can get Elsa Bloodstone. That's how this stuff works. And that's why Second Dinner can do anything they want. And that's why Apex can do anything they want. That's why Fortnite gets Travis Scott. It's not because a ton of people play Fortnite. It's because a bunch of people pay the fuck out of Fortnite. Okay? Travis Scott makes money off those skins. Like, that's the reality of all of this. Sony makes money off.
It's a self-feeding loop at that point, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing. If I feel like the games industry has a very adversarial relationship with the customers now, where everyone feels nickel and dime, and you are being nickel and dimes. Right? Mm-hmm. Marvel Snap 10 years ago would be on disc, and all the variants that I bought would be already there, and I'd have to unlock them through gameplay. But that game would probably cost the equivalent of $80 now, and it wouldn't be online. You know what I mean? And it probably costs them $1 million to develop it, where I'd be willing to bet it's probably, that's by the end of its life cycle, it'll cost them millions and millions of dollars to make this game. but the microtransactions and people supporting the game will offset that, make them money, and then the next game they do, DC break leg, will be a smash hit just as much. So this future comes because we don't want to spend money. And I'm not sitting here, throwing subliminal messages at Microsoft. I don't really give a shit, because I do think that consumers need to look out for themselves and do what's best. But I think it does come to just the fact of, if as many people who want a PlayStation handheld right now bought a Vita, we'd have another PlayStation handheld. If everyone who was like, oh, I really wish they'd make a new Legacy of Kain, had bought the original Legacy of Kain, we'd have another Legacy of Kain. You can't say these things and then be upset that you really liked the emulated version you played on Dolphin of Legacy of Kain. So now there's no more Legacy of Kains. That's not how this works. I'm not going to sell you a cheeseburger if nobody buys cheeseburgers. It's just how life works. At my job, we revisit our menu every season, and we go, okay, the mac and cheese isn't selling, the cucumber salad isn't doing well, the Middle Eastern bowl is not doing well. We get rid of that shit because it's not doing well. That's how all industries work, all of them.
And
DeLorean,
undoubtedly, though, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, someone comes into your restaurant who hasn't been there in a while, and they go, you got rid of the Mediterranean bowl? I love the Mediterranean bowl.
That's 100%. And then you know what? The company is going to go, well, you still have the product in-house, so make them the Mediterranean bowl. So, we go back and forth on all of this shit.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, and again, I'm on a soapbox here. I'm just kind of going. So thanks for letting me have my time. But the reality just is, we have to support, the industry has to support the gamers in a lot of ways, and the people buying the products. But the people buying the products have to be a little less selfish. And again, you're more than welcome to be selfish. I'm not sitting here telling you need to be me and spend hundreds of dollars on the game you already purchased or the game you got for free. But I am saying stuff like this is a direct result of less money going into their pockets, whether that's inflation, whether that's you not buying microtransactions, or whether that's you being like, I'm only playing Game Pass games. I'm only playing PS Plus games.
There's also a general like chicken and egg situation with the buying microtransactions or not buying them. And what I mean by that is, like, at the end of the day, they're the ones making the microtransactions. If I'm not buying them, why do they keep making them? Isn't that a good example of us being like, yeah, as a whole, we don't really like that. But instead they go, well, yeah, fuck the 7,000 people that didn't like it. The 10 people that really liked it, they're good enough for us. And that's kind of where it's at. And
but it's true.
So I guess to that point is, it's like, in a weird way, this feels like a cycle of pushing it to where the industry is almost being determined by a very small but very devout and willing to spend a lot of money group of people, because that is where the majority of the money is. So you follow the money, and it just turns out that for some reason right now in the industry, the money is hyper focused around, and I clearly am being a little small scale here and compared to what it really is, but you look at something like that and you go, if Fortnite can get 500,000 people to spend at least $120 a year on the game, then those 5 million people, whatever it is, 500,000 people, those 500,000 people will inherently control the way that the industry works, because the industry is going to chase that money. And then the rest of the industry is not going to act like those 500,000 people. And that's why you get games like Radical Heights and all these different things that just come, try and break into that, fall off, and then the cycle just keeps continuing. And then finally, like you say, one game happens to work. It lands, and then those 500,000 people either shift away from the one game, or you get really lucky and maybe find 200,000 new people, and 300,000 of those people come over to your game. And bam, we're right back at somewhere around the same level of people as the audience just rotates in and out of people who are into it at the time, people who have the money, people who have the care, or people who are aging out of it versus people who are aging into it. And it just seems like the industry gets led by that because it's where all the money's at. And I don't even begrudge it. I understand it. It just sucks.
Look, I think there's a lot of things, but I think if you don't want microtransactions, games should cost more. But people don't want games,
which I am perfectly fair of.
Right, I'm totally there. right?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And then that's why it sucks to us, is because I'm of the person, like I said, at this point, dude, I've still been playing Words with Friends. I would fucking gladly, I would pay you $120 to never have to watch an ad again. But I want it to be one fucking time. I do not want to pay you $10 a month. I will not fucking do it.
See, but I would just tell you to pay it once and then cancel the subscription. And then pay it again.
I'm about to just cancel the game. I'm just about to stop playing the game entirely. And that's funny because realistically, their actions are pushing me away. But because enough people are either watching the ads without complaining or are paying for the no ads without complaining, they don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting to the point of rehashing last week's conversation. But again,
no, you're right.
It's the same thing with that. You're not paying the $10, so the ads are paying that $10. Like, that's just the reality of it.
Well, I think the real reality is that they'll never make a version that subverts, even for the person who's willing to pay the grossly high one-time payment, they'll never do that because there's still more money to be made from people who will either gladly take the ads that they make probably more money than anything off of. And then if you don't want the ads, they're going to make sure they get a ton of money from you out of it, just for that game's example, right? So they're never going to be like, well, if you really hate ads, we'll let you pay a one-time charge. They'll just go, no, fuck you. You either play the game or not. And at the end of the day, we don't care because we have enough people doing one or the other that it's making us boatloads
and a lot
of
of this is just as much on the game devs. Fallout 76, I know people love that. You know, shout out Blake Popes as usual, but I know people love that game. But that game, I think, in a lot of ways, is the reason that Microsoft was able to swoop in and buy them. You know, because that game flops. 100%. So it's just that, man. You don't want Microsoft to buy everything. Buy every video game in existence. Buy all of them. Every game right now. PSN Store, put them all in your cart and hit OK. Don't even look at the price. Save the games industry. One total purchase of the PSN Store at a time.
You know, it is funny. I thought about this the other day. 4 years ago, everyone was worried about Tencent buying up the industry. When ironically, in that 4 years, Microsoft has bought more than anyone.
Yeah. And they're going to buy more. And they're going to end up going third party and it'll be fine. I mean.
All right, we're going to keep going with not just a ton of news. So the next piece of news, Jim Ryan stepping down as CEO of PlayStation and retiring at the end of the fiscal year in March of 2024. In the interim, Hiroki Totoki will be stepping in to his role. Jim sent out a long thank you to the PlayStation consumer base, but it appears that the struggle of living in the UK and working in the USA was taking its toll on him. We wish Jim luck with his future endeavors. Chris wrote that. I mean, I ultimately do.
Oh, you're just like, Chris wrote that. In my opinion, fuck Jim Ryan.
No, ultimately, I'm jealous of anyone who gets to retire because it's looking like retirement age is getting pushed further and further for our generation, which is not great. I want to retire and live my life sooner, not later. But that's, you know, I don't necessarily get to control that.
Start doing some crimes, dog, because that's the best way at this point.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's good for him that he's getting to retire in his 50s. That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like he's made a lot of money for PlayStation. Is worth plenty. So this is an interesting thing. You know, at first it came out as this big thing of like Jim Ryan stepping down, and it wasn't. It first said that he's going to be retiring, and so when Sony confirmed it with him being retiring, kind of came into view for a lot of people. And we get an interesting question here. So Joshua Lago, as some of you may remember from his short stint on a podcast called Midweek Matinee, he asked, is there anyone you would want to see take Jim Ryan's place? And can I secretly hope it's Reggie Fils-Aimé? So you can definitely secretly hope it's Reggie.
I was going to say the exact same thing. You can definitely hope for that.
If it is Reggie, first of all, clearly it won't be. But if it were Reggie, that would be the funniest thing in the world for Sony to sue Kevin Butler because he was in a Wii commercial, but then end up with the former president of Nintendo.
That is misinformation. He was in an AutoZone commercial that had a Wii
holding a Wii commercial. You're right. Yeah, he had a Wii. He just happened to have another console in his proximity inside of an AutoZone
commercial. Underplay how pathetic that was.
Yeah. It's even more pathetic than you thought. Wouldn't that be so funny if that was like Sony's like, haha, we got you, Nintendo. Try and have
Reggie
an ad with our
Nintendo.
guy. That would be so funny. But no, really speaking there, if we're going crazy dreams, I don't think he wants the role, and I think this is clearly shared by a lot of people. I think of the people left at PlayStation, if I was going to see somebody come into this role, it would either be Shuhei Yoshida or Scott Rhodey. Most people don't even know Scott Rhodey anymore because he's not nearly as out in front of people like he was in the PS3 and early PS4 days, and even the Vita days. And that's unfortunate because I really like Scott, and he clearly has that. He understands, obviously, because he's one of their producers. He oversees development of all their different games, checks in on things, and I think he clearly knows what makes a good game for the majority of the industry, and I think he also clearly understands that it's a business that needs to make money. I would love to see him. I think Yoshida also has just a passion about him, and so I guess the answer that you go to in this situation is I would really like to see someone who we'll probably never see as head of PlayStation again, and that is someone who is clearly passionate about gaming. But here's the problem. Being passionate about gaming means that you are going to more likely err on the side of the consumers and the player base than you will on what's going to be best for your company to make money. And that is why you get something like the Jim Ryan, Sean Layden situation, where it seemed like Sean Layden was far more willing to do what he thought was going to give good word of mouth and good PR and good feedback and be beloved by gamers. Whereas Jim Ryan was like, no, cutthroat, whatever we've got to do to make a bunch of money, we're going to do. And Jim Ryan has been excellent in that regard. Say what you will about Jim Ryan. I don't care. You can talk shit about anything he's done. Sony and PlayStation in specific have made so much money since he's taken over that it doesn't matter what you think about him because you're still paying the money.
That's been my big takeaway is people are clowning on Jim, and I'm like, that man did a phenomenal job. I don't know why people give him so much crap. Like a big talking point I've seen is like, oh, the whole Xbox thing. I'm like, he killed it. He nearly single-handedly destroyed that deal.
Dude, say what you will about him, but I have said from day one, when he had that thing of, I don't want a new Call of Duty, I just want to block your merger. Dude, I mean this. I don't even mean that I agree with him. I don't particularly care one way or the other, but do you know how much of a boss-ass thing that is to say? People at Sony were like, we hired the right fucking guy.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, absolutely. You can make fun of a lot of things with Jim, but the reality is, like, he was a force for the PlayStation brand, whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
He made the game stronger. Forget when he came in there, everyone loves all the other guys, but nothing, the PS4, I personally think that was happenstance, the Xbox just blowing it, Jim Ryan took that momentum and made PlayStation massive, and I'll always respect that. I don't want another CEO. I just want you to enjoy your retirement, Jim Ryan.
Yeah, so, I mean, expect a businessy businessman. And you know what I think further cements that? The death of E3. E3 used to be where you'd see the CEOs come up on stage and talk to you, and you wanted them to be people who were kind of lively and eclectic and would feel to some degree like they understood the gamers and the consumers because it's such a gaming oriented event that brings a lot of people in. So you want that. But the CEOs are so distant these days from the actual hardcore community that all that really matters is whether or not the overarching group of people who are the more general consumer are buying in, and if the moves that the person is making are facilitating more money to be made through that. And since we don't see Jim Ryan in almost anything anymore, it's real easy to just be like, oh, when you do see him, you see him. But other than that, you don't think of Sony the way you used to. I hate that because I used to love that I viewed PlayStation as just like they're for the players and they're doing all these great things that are in the favor of the consumers. The reality of all that is that it was a bit of column A, a bit of column B. They had the right people in the right positions to make those calls, and those calls just also happened to be for the best of the industry at that moment. But believe you me, if it would have been ideal for the industry. And if the industry would have all took on and ran with it, Sony would have also done everything that Xbox was talking about doing with the Xbox One if they thought it was going to actually benefit. They would have had pushback from the people in there. I believe that. But at the end of the day, they would have done what had to be done. And that's the world we're in. So I would love to see a CEO who is more relatable, but I guess my flip side argument to that is I know a lot of people like Phil, and I don't even mind Phil, right? Phil Spencer for Xbox. But I'll say one thing about Phil. What I don't like is that Phil seems like Two-Face in the sense that he's talking to you and you're like, this guy's cool. He gets it. He's a gamer. He's playing. He understands what we want. Awesome. And then the next time he says something, you're like, well, that doesn't fucking align with what he said at all.
Mm-hmm.
Or, the next time, or the time when action actually happens. So when he goes, we want more people playing more places, and you go, great, that sounds awesome. And then he goes, also, you have to pay to play free-to-play games online. Well, that seems like it's in direct contrast to that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're buying Activision. We want to make sure that everyone can play our games on any system, regardless of where they want to play. So we're going to take all of our games off of PlayStation entirely if we get Activision. That sounds not right. And again, like Chris and I said, I guess what I'm saying is I would almost rather have a cutthroat businessman who's just like, yeah, we're buying Activision. We're clearly buying Activision because we want their mobile department. But as far as console goes as well, we'd be stupid to let the games go everywhere when we could strengthen our console presence by making those games exclusive. So that's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. I'd at least be like, damn, that's tough. But I get it. Fair. Thanks for telling us. Yeah. It's like you wouldn't be happy about it, but you'd be like, okay, I begrudgingly accept. And so I don't know that I have a real answer that I think is realistic. Chris, do you have someone that you think actually might work? It's going to be some name you've never heard of who works at Sony. That's what
it's not going to be anyone we're even talking about. But my idea, I think, would be Herman Holst. Seems like he's been building towards that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring Shannon Studstill back.
Maybe. Don't think so.
Doubt it. Oh, man.
I bid you adieu,
good question,
Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, we bid you adieu. Before we get on to the rest of it, there's a question here that I think is pretty... it's going to wrap all this up nicely. So Rude Days 93 patron says, back on June 8th, on that show, I asked you guys a question as to what word you would use to describe your feelings on PlayStation Studios' future. Both of you said intrigue with the information you had, and Chris was leaning more on the optimistic side of intrigue. My question now is, with Jim Ryan leaving, with how Factions is on freeze right now, has your opinion changed any?
No. No, but I think we kind of answered this question already, right? Like...
That's what I was going to say, is I feel like my opinion has changed, but I think it's changed in a way where my perception of the industry has continued to change throughout this year. And I'm becoming more and more aware of the fact of what we've said to some degree all along. This is a business. And ultimately what I want and what I think is best for my enjoyment of Sony is at sometimes in direct contrast to what Sony thinks is best for them and their ability to continue this brand. And eventually we have to reconcile that. So to that end, I think intrigue is still the perfect word to use. I would just say I'm truly in the most neutral position of intrigue right now because I have some worries, but I also see very big potential, like Chris was talking about, with what they have going on. And the real reality is, until it becomes clear one way or the other whether or not games as a service is going to kill or help them bolster the single player games that they do put out, that will probably be where my intrigue starts to swing more positive or more negative for my own personal like of PlayStation. But for right now, I think Jim's leaving on a high note. If anything, if I had to change my answer right here and say anything, as crazy as it sounds, Jim Ryan leaving might actually lean a little more towards the negative because, like Chris has said, like him or not, he has been a force for PlayStation. So whoever comes in either has to really come in, ready to swing and get picking up and keep this momentum going, or they run the risk of backstepping at a time when Microsoft is really trying to push their foot in the industry.
Yeah, said it beautifully. That's basically exactly what I would have said. So
there we have it. All right, so we're going to go through some rapid fire news real quick. We have statue maker Gaming Heads out of China has indicated that Sony has revoked their licenses from them and required all stock of PlayStation products to be destroyed. They gave a lengthy explanation that was terribly written, by the way, and suggested contacting a specific woman at PlayStation about refunds. Bold.
Insane.
Fucking bold. Hey, I know that we're destroying everything because Sony told us to, so I suggest that you reach out to Sony and tell them to give you your money back. Listen, this clearly screams to me as a thing where we're seeing one side of the story.
And the problem with this story is we'll never see the other side. Never
will, ever. Sony has enough litigation power to see this buried into the ground.
Yeah.
But there is that party, right? His claim is that Sony has already made the royalty monies off of this, and then are telling him to delete the stock, so he's going to lose double because he's paid into their royalties. They won't pay it back, and he's having to get rid of his stock and not be able to sell it. Observation number one: these statues look like a statue website where they say one thing and then you get it and they look kind of like crap. If that's not the case, then good on you. But I looked at a lot of people that were saying they've ordered stuff and been waiting for over a year. So this just sounds like limited run games on crack.
Yeah.
Also, this is coming from China. Why do they even give a fuck about why do they even give a fuck about the copyright or license agreements? They sell stuff all the time without any kind of copyright or licensing.
Yeah. That's why you get that downward dog Tifa statue. Like, that stuff only happens because no one cares. You know, Square Enix did not allow that. So
100%.
My only thought is that I would like to hear the other side that I'm not going to hear because, quite frankly, I don't trust these guys. It doesn't make like, it's not me trying to defend Sony, because this is the way this. If you just look at this on its face, this looks negative for Sony. But Sony was selling these guys product on their own personal website, so clearly these guys did something they're not saying.
Maybe. Or maybe Sony did that for a bit and then it became obvious that exactly what I said, the quality or quality control or the speed of service was hitting a point where Sony thought, if we continue this relationship and let it be an official PlayStation thing, it's going to weaken our position within this side of the industry and make us look worse. We need to kill it off before it grows anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So... sucks. Hope you didn't order anything from them. If you didn't,
you'd probably still be waiting anyway. So who knows? Who cares?
All right. Next thing, FIFA is officially dead. All versions have been delisted from stores, making them only playable if you already owned the titles. Whew. That's kind of wild. If you asked me 10 years ago when I was working at, or I guess 11 years ago at this point, when I was working at GameStop, if I ever thought FIFA would go away, I would have thought you were out of your mind. And here we are.
Well, look, FIFA did not go away. It's called EAFC, and it's out in a couple weeks. It's just renamed.
But the FIFA name is so big and so ingrained in that franchise that I'm very curious to see how well EAFC does.
This is going to be an interesting year for sports because we're finally finding out that Tom Brady was the good one and it wasn't Bill Belichick this year. And we're also finding out that we're also going to find out if FIFA was the reason it was doing well or if it's because of the game. It'll be super interesting to see all this stuff come to pass.
It will. If only we had gotten exactly what you were talking about. And whenever the MLB came to Sony, they were like, yeah, fuck you. We're just going to make a baseball game. And that would have been super interesting to see. Like, yeah, hey, we're just going to make a baseball game.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? It's got metal bats in it. We've got 3 players, and it's David Ortiz and fucking Pokey Reese.
Yeah, interesting to see, but RIP FIFA. I mean, we knew the day was coming.
Rip
FIFA died before college football returned. That's how long we've been waiting on that new college football. All right. PS Plus games have been confirmed in Callisto Protocol, Farming Simulator 22, and Weird West are all now available. And it proves that once more, Bill Coon has got the hookup on the leak. So if you see a leak from him, I think it's just safe to trust it, to be honest with you.
Does not miss.
Does not miss. Interesting, eclectic mix of games. Weird West is cool. I've been wanting to play that, so I'm glad to see that hit. Next piece, Cyberpunk is final at 2.0. CD Projekt Red has indicated the next step for the series is Cyberpunk 2, aka Orion, as we currently know it, being made on Unreal Engine 5 instead of their own engine. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this game lands and if they're going to get the reception they always wanted out of this game with the launch of 2. I think they've learned a lesson, but you never know.
Drop the last generation of consoles for this one. This is going to be a PS6 game. Do not.
Chris, I think you just muted yourself.
I was talking. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't yell at me.
I didn't yell.
Not you.
Oh, TT dog over there. Chris's mute counter's at 1. And you dropped the camera, Chris. You're just really batting 1,000 today.
Hey, man. I'll edit this all out if it's on audio only. All of it'll be gone. It'll be an immaculate show.
Immaculate? Immaculate, like a recent offer from the U.S. owners where you get a free game when you purchase a new PS5 has now been changed?
That was solid. Yeah, good segue.
Sony has quietly updated the terms, and now it says the free game is, quote, invitation only, which means only selected players can redeem a free game. I'm not going to lie, this is terrible. This is terrible optics. Yeah, I can't believe they did this.
I wonder if it was being exploited somehow.
Maybe.
Because
you're getting a game from the PS Store. It's not like you can get it and sell it to somebody.
Well, what I'm wondering is if there was a way to like because I think the way I was reading it was meant to if you were upgrading from the PS4 to the PS5. So what I'm wondering is if the original intent was a brand new fresh PS5. You don't like if I bought another PS5 and I redeemed that game, that wouldn't work. So what I was thinking reading this sounds shitty, but my bet is that it'll be like, oh, you've just gotten a PS5 and we can tell that because you've never played a PS5 game before. Here's your code for a free game, rather than, hey, Chris, you just bought your girlfriend a PS5. Here's your code for a free game. You know, I think that's the difference there. Bad optics, but logical reasoning. I think.
Even if it's bad optics, you don't want to lose thousands of potential dollars in game sales for people that aren't technically qualifying. Right. I almost wonder if it was something as simple as you could reinitialize your PS5 and it just viewed it as a new one. It was like, free game, here you go.
I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
Yeah, not at all. So interesting to see, though. It's like you can never fully get away from this. One thing that's not really in the news, but I just want to brush up on because it was like the talk of the internet for like 3 days and then it disappeared, is that hacker group that said that they had gotten into Sony's back-end information at PlayStation and they had all this stuff and people were freaking out and saying this is going to be the 2011 or whatever year it was, the great PSN outage, and it's going to happen all over again. And then it was never confirmed. There was never any evidence that they had actually made any real inside of anything. And then it just went away like a poof in the wind. Yeah. Do you think there was even a speckle of truth to that?
Yeah, I bet they probably got some files and Sony was like, yeah, we don't give a shit about these. You know, I'd be willing to bet it wasn't customer information. It probably wasn't like anything super proprietary. They probably got like the script to Morbius and the script to Craven and like Sam Raimi's discarded Spider-Man 4, but they didn't get like the Last of Us 3 announcement trailer. You know what I mean? So I think it for me, it was probably just Sony saw what they had, couldn't give a shit less, and told them to fuck themselves. Like that's probably as far as
I wonder. I saw some people trying to conspiracy theory out and say Sony is that they got the purchasing information from people and Sony hasn't said anything. I'm like, guys, if Sony doesn't say anything and they know that they got your customer information, that's illegal.
Yeah, they're fucked. That's not a thing.
Like, don't get me wrong, do you not think Sony would have done that last time had they could have? Yeah,
Right,
they'd have
exactly.
been like, they'd have just been like, yeah, no, nobody got anything.
What? Hackers? That's not real.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see, though. It's so, like that thing you shit on Twitter, honor in console wars.
Oh.
It's like, dude, nothing that happens in console wars is honorable, first of all. Everything that happens in console wars to that degree is just people trying to do crazy shit to make a statement against the opposing team.
That was so catastrophically stupid. Because the thing that really got me is that man was defending spoiling Spider-Man 2 because someone had spoiled gameplay mechanics for Starfield. That was the whole crux of this. It's insanity. Let's see.
But that's where we are, Chris.
The tweet was, I don't want to hear any of the usual suspects, PlayStation fans, complaining about select fanboys sharing Spider-Man 2 PS5 leaks and spoilers. As if y'all forgot back in August, you hypocrites posted nothing but Starfield leaks and spoilers. I'm not going to share leaks, but I don't care about honor in console wars. Any Xbox fan mad at this is phony too. Y'all knew this would happen after what people was doing to Starfield weeks before its release. Stop catering to PlayStation fanboys. Them toxic clowns will not do the same for you. I cannot stand that. Be the bigger man stance. Nah, let them get what they asked for. So first of all, punctuate your shit and spell things right.
Yeah,
this is
if you're going to get up on your soapbox, at least try.
Right. If you're going to sit here and put yourself alongside like Afghani war vets in the console war, like fucking spell it right. You know? And I think that's the thing that made me laugh. I think, what did I tweet? What did I say? It was honor in the console wars. Veterans Day is now for the army and fanboys.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, this is insane. Look, don't spoil shit. Don't spoil Starfield and don't spoil Spider-Man. I got spoiled on Spider-Man already. I'm pretty pissed.
Oh, dude.
But I'm going to be honest, I'm not surprised. So I'm like, okay.
Fair enough.
And it's not confirmed. So I'll still play it. And when what happens, I'll be fine. But yeah, just don't be an asshole. This is just simple. Like, don't be an asshole. Like, why are you being an asshole? Like, why are people, catfishing as a hot female Xbox fanboy and then spreading Spider-Man 2 leaks? I'm sorry, look. It's going to be my hottest take of all time. Hot women who play video games have other shit to do than spoil Spider-Man because they like Xbox. That is a terminally online man thing to do. That only men do that. I'm sorry. Women who play games are not sharing spoilers on Twitter. They're not doing it. There's no chance. You cannot convince me.
Chris, I'd want to say that you're being sexist, but it sounds like you're supporting women in this.
Yes.
Like you're giving top marks to women.
I'm saying women got better shit to do than we do, okay?
So you're being sexist against men.
Yes. What is it?
We're part of that.
I'm committing misandry right now. Well, I'm a Latinx, so I can do whatever I want.
No, Chris.
Oh, I'm so mad. I'm going to beat myself up in the shower later. Oh, that sounded gross. Why did I say it like that?
Oh, gosh. All right. Hey, you know what? If you're watching this on YouTube, comment down in the comment section right now. Hashtag beat yourself up in the shower.
Really tenderize that meat in the shower.
Chris, phrasing.
I'm supporting women right now, Brett. I am the opposite of a misogynist.
So, Chris, we've reached the junction of the episode where we have to determine, are we going to do Velvet's Corner first or the Topster first? I'm going to let you decide since it was your idea. Topster first?
Velvet Corner closes out the show every week.
He's a closer. Okay. We've got another game this week, one that you're a little in the know on. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. All right. So, Chris, as we talked about, from here on out, guys, we're going to be doing our top 25 games, and we're going to try and keep it relatively timely. We're going to have a fun little back and forth of seeing if we can guess each other's top 5. And then we're going to kind of talk briefly on why we have each game in this top 25 list. We're going to try and keep it to where no game can be talked about for more than a minute, but ideally we're going to have like 10 seconds on each game just to give a little rundown. At the end of the day, you've either played the game and understand, or you haven't, and hopefully our words can get you to maybe try something new. But Chris, do you want to try and guess mine first, or would you want me to try and put you in the hot seat and see if I can guess yours?
I think you need to go first, because I think you will have an easier time guessing mine than I will guessing yours.
Your top 5?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing about your top 5.
I will PayPal you on the show $20 if you get it right, 100%.
Now, in just the 5 games, or do I have to be exact order?
Exact order.
Okay. Confirm with me right now, Fallout 3 is number 1.
You already lost.
Good.
Yep. Fallout 3 has been moved on. Oh, fuck off. Because Fallout 3 is not number 1. Because I've said it like multiple times. It's no longer my top game.
All right. So look, if I'm being real, I still think Fallout 3 is in your top 5, though. I don't think you moved on that far, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Okay. I have a feeling that you're going to be a bit in the recency bias realm.
Maybe.
I think you're going to have a lot of games you've recently played be in there. So, not ordered yet. I'm going to say Persona 5, probably Royale. No, you don't have to. No, I'm going to give you the 5, and then you can confirm the 5, and then I'll confirm the order, and we'll see if I'm right. So I'm going to say Persona 5.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that you've moved The Witcher 3 up into this. So I think Persona 5, probably Royal if you're going to go game specific. The Witcher 3. I'm going to say Red Dead 2 has eked its way up into your top 5. Then it gets a little more hard to actually figure out. I feel like a Fallout game is going to be in there.
Yeah.
The question is, if it's not 3, I don't see how it'd be New Vegas. I know you like New Vegas, but I don't see how it'd be New Vegas over 3 for you.
I definitely don't like New Vegas that much.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that Fallout 3 has managed to stay in your top 5, and that's going to be there. And then the last game, this is tough.
This is the one I do not think you'll get, because I didn't think it was here until I made this list. And I was like, oh.
Now I'm really trying to think. Disco Elysium is kind of in my mind, but I also feel like you've not beaten that game, so I don't think you want to give it that high marks.
Correct. Do you want a hint?
Oh, if you're willing, yeah.
I platinumed it last year.
Oh, you platinumed it.
And if you need another hint, I'll give you another hint. You can't go look up my trophies, though. You just got to know what I've gotten the platinum in.
I know, I'm thinking. Wait, hold on. Last year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. There's a lot of options in there. Because I know, here's the thing. I don't think it's this game, even though it's an amazing game. I don't think it's the Outer Worlds. You did get the platinum in the Outer Worlds, though.
So I platinumed it once in 2021 and once in 2022. So I've just given you another hint.
Holy shit, you platinumed it twice. Death Stranding.
Is that your guess?
Yes.
So what's my top 5?
Persona 5, Royale, The Witcher 3, Red Dead 2, Fallout 3, and what I just said. For some reason, I'm brain farting all over again. Death Stranding, yeah.
Okay, is that the order?
Can you confirm if the games are even right?
4 of them are right.
Oh, okay. So I got the last one that I just guessed wrong.
You did get the last one you just guessed wrong.
Ooh, I don't know. The fact that you platinum it twice means that there's either a PS4 and PS5 version, which feels like a hint in and of itself.
That's a hint in and of itself, yes. I'll give you. You want another version? Or you want another hint? Because I just want to see how long it'll take you to figure out. How many hints does it take to get to the center of the top 5?
Sure, you can give me a hint if you want.
Another game in the series came out this year.
Another game in the series came out this year. Oh, hold on. There's no way it's MLB, though, because I feel like MLB moves every year. Like
it's not MLB.
Your new favorite MLB is always that year's MLB.
It's not MLB.
A new Chris, you're fucking... I don't know if that's a help. It came out this year?
A new entry in this series came out this year.
Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Nailed it.
I forgot that you got that platinum twice, actually.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
All right, what's the order?
Oh. Okay.
When I tell you the order, it'll be very obvious. It'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right.
I have a feeling that Fallout 3 is still towards the top, but because I think that you've kind of played a few things, I'm kind of wanting to play it safe and say that that's your third. Like it's like dead center of your list.
Interesting choice. Okay.
Yeah. It's either that or it's second. I know it's not your first.
Commit to one.
Okay, fine. I'm going to put it at 2.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So, oh, shit. Okay. Oh, man, dude. Top game is wild, though, because I don't think it's RE2. If I had to put RE2 somewhere, I think RE2 Remake is your 5th.
I will neither confirm nor deny. I already gave you one.
Confirm. Okay, you gave me one. Okay. There's a chance that The Witcher 3 has just really snuck its way in. So I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be very bold. I'm going to say The Witcher 3 is your number 1. Then I guess I'll do Persona slightly above Red Dead. So Red Dead would be 4 and Persona would be 3. How do I do?
Nah. Not
completely ruined it.
The only one you got was Fallout 3. So my top 5 would be Persona 5 Royal, Fallout 3,
Holy shit, yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2, with The Witcher 3, Resident Evil 2.
Oh, I got Resident Evil 2 as the final game. That's right.
Okay, you did. So, yeah.
I got 2 of them.
2 and 5. Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, 2 out of 5. That's not too bad. All right, Chris. Good luck.
Shit.
Dude, yeah. if you get this, I'll send you $20. Fuck, I'll send you 50.
I know there's got to be a Kingdom Hearts game here, right?
Interesting choice.
Is it Kingdom Hearts 2? And it's like 3rd.
I will not confirm nor deny any of that information.
Fuck. Kingdom Hearts. There's a Kingdom Hearts game here, and I'm gonna go with.
Let me tell you this. I think that's a reasonable train of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Okay. It's Brett. It's Brett, and I love Brett. Brett is one of my closest friends at this point in my life. One of my closest friends, but he's a pretentious motherfucker. So
you got it.
It's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is in your top 5.
Bold choice. I can tell you right now, you're wrong.
Okay, it's Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. Which I think I got that title right too, which is kind of the craziest part.
It's 358. It's 358 days over 2.
I was super close.
You're not bad. Yeah, you're not bad.
Who's never played those games.
For someone who doesn't play them, yeah.
It's super close. Not bad. Kingdom Hearts 1, I think, is too old. No, but you play Kingdom Hearts 1 every year. Or you used to.
I haven't in a while, but yes, it is the game of the series I have played the most, and for good reason.
All right, it's Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is up there.
Okay.
You don't strike me as one of my favorite games was Final Fantasy VII guy.
Nope. You're a smart man.
Because you're a 12 person. You're one of those assholes.
12 is good, but I'm actually going to probably blow someone's mind, and this is a really big hint for you. There was not a single Final Fantasy game in my top 25.
Okay. All right.
And that's a series I love.
Do I want to say Death Stranding? I don't know. I'm going to put Death Stranding in the top 5.
I'll tell you this much, Chris. Where you are right now,
nowhere close.
You are doing just as bad as I thought you would do.
I am right about a Kingdom Hearts. You got to give me that. There is a Kingdom Hearts in the top 5.
There is a single Kingdom Hearts in my top 25.
You're an enigma.
And there's a single Kingdom Hearts in my top 5.
You're an enigma because when we revisit this in 2 years, Immortals of Avium is going to be on your fucking list.
Dude, if that happens, that will blow my mind. I like that game. It's good.
The Forest is up here, isn't it? Dude, or is it? It's in the top. It's in the top 25.
I hate to break this news to anyone. I cut it. It was the last game that I cut. And it's going to blow your mind as to why. Let me tell you this, Chris. My list has got decades.
Yeah, okay. Our lists are going to be very different. I can't guess yours then, because I'm not.
My list is varied.
I have too much recency bias with you, and that's just.
I will tell you this much. There is one game that I know you've got one of my top 5 already.
The Order, is that there?
it's not in here.
Okay, because I would have quit the show. It's like you're allowed to like it, but that much. Yeesh.
Yeah. So you've got one of mine, Chris. There's another game in this top 5 that I know without a doubt that if you spend 2 seconds just meditating to yourself about what game Brett loves, you will find the answer to in your soul.
Fuck, I don't know, man. How do you have the platinum? Terraria's on here. That was easy. Terraria's up there. Is that the game you were talking about?
I do have the platinum. That is not the game I was talking about.
Fuck. Is it in the top 5?
No.
God damn it.
But it is in my top 25. Terraria is a fucking banger.
Oh, man.
And it barely misses out, by the way.
So it's 6?
I struggled. And I put 2 games before it. So it's my 8. And I really struggled. I'm still debating moving it right now, but I told you I stopped fighting at some point. I was like, the game's made my 25.
Brett, I'm going to be honest, I genuinely don't know. Just give it to me.
You ready? My top 5 in order are Shadow of the Colossus. And I chose Remake because I do think it's the better game.
I should have known that one.
Nier Automata comes in at number 2.
Oh, okay. I should have known that one.
Kingdom Hearts 1 comes in at number 3.
Got one.
Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 comes in at number 4.
I forgot that game. I would change my list No, I wouldn't. Actually, my list is perfect. But I would think about changing
I don't think in a million years you would have guessed my number 5. I don't think you would have guessed Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
I wouldn't have.
I was like,
RuneScape.
Dude, I almost put RuneScape in here.
How is RuneScape not on there?
To this day, dude, right now looking at this list, there is a game I'm like, RuneScape could be here. But I'm going to give you number 5 is Silent Hill 2. It is one of the best horror games of all time. And for the reasons that it is a tried and true horror game. It is not trying to jump scare you. It is trying to chill you to your core with disturbing thought processes and emotional damage.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think we've ever talked about that. Even when I played Silent Hill 2 and we talked about it a little bit, I
told you it's one of my favorite games.
I don't remember that. Okay. That's a respectable
we talked a lot about it.
It's a respectable top. It's funny because I was thinking like this would be fun. Maybe he guesses my next 5. I don't fucking know how to guess yours. If you can guess mine, that would be fun. But I feel like mine is easier than yours. Well, I bet you can guess my next 6 or my next 5.
I think that you've done really well on putting a few games that I think you know me well enough that are in my top 25. Like I can tell you, Terraria is definitely in my top 25.
Yeah. Nier Replicant would be there, right?
Nier Replicant is in there. Yep.
Yeah.
It didn't make top 5, but it's a fantastic
I still can't believe
game.
The Forest is not there. The Order's not on the list at all.
It's going to blow your mind when I tell you what game I had to fight myself over. That is exactly the game I was bound. The Last of Us is what edged The Forest out. And I was kind of at war with myself because I felt like a Naughty Dog game needs to be here because I do think that there's games, but I was really thinking through like which of their 2 games, Uncharted 2 or The Last of Us, are going to be the game that hits this list. And I just cannot come up with a strong enough argument for Uncharted 2. I think it's a great game and it did a ton for the industry.
Uncharted 2 went on and came off my list twice. But fun fact, there is an Uncharted game on my list.
Wild. Wild indeed. Okay.
And I called you pretentious, but that is a pretentious pick. I will tell you that right now. My Uncharted pick, pretentious as fuck.
All right, well, Chris, let's go ahead and kind of get going on it. I'm not going to worry about guessing your 6. You do your next 5. I'll do my next 5 following you.
Okay. So we'll go from 10 to 5. That'll be easier. And I'm going to put the disclaimer out. I cheated, but the website let me cheat. Okay.
Wait, what does that mean?
You'll see. So number 10, Grand Theft Auto 4. Number 9, this is where I cheated, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. That is all 3 of them. It let me do it, so I did it.
That's a good cheat. And you know what's funny? I had the same argument with myself whenever I was looking, and I thought I could put this game in here, or I could put the collection of this game. I won't say it yet because it's a little further down my list. But
I will just to put it out there. My Mass Effect pick would be 2. Obviously, there's no other Mass Effect pick.
2 is the Mass Effect game.
Yeah. So after that, this would be what, 7? Cyberpunk 2077.
Dude, I really fought with myself to put Cyberpunk on here, but I think I will probably have it in my list once I play the game again.
Yeah. Once I had the moment today at work, and this is very recency bias, but I think it counts, right? Once I had the moment today at work where I wanted to play Cyberpunk really bad, you have that moment where you're playing a new game, you're like, I want to go play that new game. And I had that for Cyberpunk, a game I platinumed and beat twice last year. I was like, yeah, that's a top game. That's a top game. So the next game would be Pokemon Emerald.
Interesting.
Pokemon Emerald, number 6. You want to guess number 5? I'll give you a hint. I got the platinum, and I talked about it a lot on this show.
Okay, the Outer Worlds.
No, it's close. It's on my list. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, number 6.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Yeah, that's not surprising at all. Sekiro's a great game that I wish I had as much love as everyone else has for it. But it's one of those things where I can easily see why people love it. So it's like, I don't ever mind when someone's like, one of the greatest games of all time. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it.
I've never felt better at video games than beating that game. And I say this with love. I'm talking shit about a lot of my friends on the show, apparently. You know Sean and how he is. Okay? You understand. I love him. He's a certain type of way with games. And he cannot beat Sekiro. And I've beaten that game 8 times. And that's my crowning moment because he's great at these games. And that's why he'll always text me. He'll give me the hints. He knows the shit and he researches the shit. But he cannot get through Sekiro. And I have done it. And I will always hold that up for him. I'll be like, oh, why don't you go beat the boss, little baby boy? You can't parry hard enough. I'll always have that.
I do. Trust me. I get it. I say rather. Here's the thing. I fell off of Sekiro, but I never really got to a point where I was literally bashing my head against a wall. But I could very easily see how you reach that point. And I think right now, if I had to think, do I want to go do Defiled Amygdala or play more Sekiro? I think I'd rather go do Defiled Amygdala again.
Oh, God, no. I think Defiled Amygdala is one of the reasons why I do not care about a Bloodborne remake. Because I'll play a Bloodborne remake, but I don't want to do it again. So, all right, give me.
I'll give you my 10 through 5. All right, 10 through 6 rather. Yeah. So 10 is Nier Replicant. Everything I love about Nier Automata is present in this game. All of the very interesting storytelling, the odd plays against what's right and wrong, what makes people human, is all here in a very different way. And I struggled to almost put the original American release of Nier here because I do find the father-daughter dynamic of the story in that original Western changed version to be a little stronger for me personally. And that could be a mix of just the fact that I'm a father and I was not very close to my sister, so there's part of that. I'm not super close to either of my siblings in that kind of way, at least. But great game, and I've decided to really go with Replicant because it does fix the few gameplay problems that I think the original Nier had, and it finds a way to make that game not only a great story, which it always was, but an even better game now, which it wasn't always. So that's there. One of my favorite games of all time. I fought with myself hard on this next one. I wanted it to be Dead Space 2, but I have landed on Dead Space Remake.
Nailed it.
It is the quintessential Dead Space game. If you have to play one, dude, I am so excited for what they could do with a 2 remake because of how well they treated 1's remake. It's so good. It is so fucking good.
I hope, because we have the technology now, I hope when they remake 2, the eye scene happens in first person.
Dude.
we have the technology. We can rebuild it. It's interesting
though, because I feel like you do have a very visceral moment seeing it into the eye.
You do.
From a non-first person. So it's hard to say. There's a scene that's actually kind of similar to that, to when you get the eye shine in the Riddick game. Escape from Butcher Bay. Great game. Also almost made the list. So fucking good. But number 8, as I mentioned earlier, is Terraria. I have talked at length about Terraria on the show for years. If you have not heard me spiel on it, you don't want to hear it now. If you haven't played Terraria, play it. Number 7 goes just barely edged out in the number 6 position. But number 7 goes to Portal 2, which I think is one of the most cleverly written and most fun and entertaining. It is probably the perfect mix of gameplay and story. it's equally as good from a story perspective as it is as a fun, crazy, don't want to put it down game.
That's an immaculate pick. I'm going to give you that.
It is an immaculate pick. And I really thought which one I wanted to choose here. And I landed on number 6 goes to The Elder Scrolls. And
Morrowinds.
I really wanted to give it to Morrowind. Then I really wanted to give it to Oblivion.
Daggerfall? He gave it to Daggerfall, didn't he?
I gave it to Skyrim.
Wow, okay.
For all the problems that I think Skyrim does have, I think all of the best parts of Skyrim outweigh the problems that they introduce into the series. Skyrim does a fantastic job, a much better job, in my opinion, than Fallout 4, of making a world that feels huge, interesting, and varied, and does not feel like the majority of what's worth it is in the main storyline for me. Chris and I are a little inherently different about our feelings on Fallout 4, but I think Skyrim's the best blend of trying to make a very commercially viable game while still being a very RPG-driven game.
All right. I like that.
So, all right. So, I guess here we are now. We're 15 through 10 for you. What you got? Or 15 through 11.
This may be my weirdest pick. MVP Baseball 2005.
Bro, that is probably the weirdest pick of the whole shebang from all of us.
No,
I don't know. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
I have my number 25. I think will beat all of them personally. We'll find out when we get there. But MVP Baseball 2005 is the perfect baseball video game.
Nice.
It does everything that it does what MLB is introducing into the game now. The stadium creator, which was a huge thing. It was PS5 exclusive. You could do that shit on the PS2. Okay. This game was steroid era baseball. Now, if you understand what that means Sammy Sosa. That means Manny Ramirez, Mark McGwire. This is the greatest baseball game of all time. Maybe second greatest. There's another one on my list, believe it or not. 2 baseball games on my list. So what number is this? Is this 14? Number 14. It's an indie game, little indie game that actually was a very big part I think, in my opinion, my estimation, a very big part in Unity reversing their decisions. Would you like to make a guess?
Cult of the Lamb.
Slay the Spire is number 14 on Chris's list of.
I actually forgot Slay the Spire was Unity. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, if Slay the Spire didn't make your list, I'm actually, when you said I could probably guess your next 5, I thought that somewhere in 5 through 10, Slay the Spire would have been there.
Slay the Spire was at 3 at one point. So the next game, this should not surprise you, Brett. It is The Outer Worlds, Obsidian's classic.
Magnum opus right there.
Magnum opus. Yep.
Look, here's the thing. I think that at its best, New Vegas is better than Outer Worlds. But
Outer Worlds runs.
Outer Worlds is almost as good far more often.
Yeah, I would agree. And then I think the thing that will always stick with me more than anything in a Fallout or in any other Obsidian game is you can't kill yourself. You'll be damaging company property. That is the perfect distillation of what that game is. And I love it so much.
Yeah, dude, I've never been so happy to hear you, more so than The Witcher, if I'm being honest, to hear you turn around on a game. And the reason is that The Witcher 3 is a different RPG. And I can understand that it was different for you to get into. Yeah. But I know that you like the type of RPG that The Outer Worlds is. And so when you were saying that you thought it was a terrible game, I was like, Chris, you are just wrong. I don't know how to say it other than that. And thankfully, you have moved over to my way of thinking on this. So I'm glad to hear.
The craziest part to me is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 games on my top 25 that I've said on this show that I think are shit.
Yep.
Love that for me.
Yeah, so we got The Witcher, The Outer Worlds, Red Dead 2, and what's your last one?
Sekiro. But I actually don't know if I was on the show. But I bought Sekiro, got to the second tutorial area, and didn't play it again for 5 years, and then I platinumed it.
What a redemption arc.
Oh, goddamn. Miyazaki finally did it. Don't get mad at me. I was joking. I like all those games. He only made one good one. So my next game is Batman Arkham Asylum.
Okay.
Batman Arkham Asylum is the only existing perfect video game. My next pick,
and it's at number. It's at number 13.
It is at number 13. My next pick is also another indie game, which rivals Slay the Spire for the most time I've ever played in an indie game. It is a very cozy game. Makes me very happy. It makes me sleepy sometimes. But it's a wonderful video game. Do you have a guess on number? Nailed it. Number 11 is Stardew Valley.
Yeah. When Stardew wasn't in your 10, I was like, there's no way it's not in this next list.
Yeah. Number 11 is Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
That was also
all right.
My original top 5 was Persona, Fallout, Slay the Spire. One of the games I haven't said yet, so I won't put it in there in Stardew Valley. And then things changed.
Iteration gets you, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah. I really had to play around with mine. Dude, getting to a top 7 that I felt comfortable with was a lot harder than I want to admit.
Yeah. When I was doing this, I eventually just got to a point where I was like, I'm done. And I just turned off the site and sent you the picture.
100%. I'm not even going to lie, dude. The rest of these, you can almost completely forget the order. My thing was, they made the top 25, damn it. They got their call. So for the sake of it, my number 15 is Batman Arkham City, the actual one true perfect video game.
No. It wouldn't be at 15. Yep. That's what you just said to me.
I know, Chris, but you did it anyway. So
yeah, freedom of expression.
If I have to tell you why Arkham City is a fantastic game, then you'd be Chris and you'd be wrong.
True.
Though Arkham Asylum is also a banger, but I only wanted to have one Batman game on my list. So Arkham City is what it went with. Fantastic game. One of the best sequels of all time. And if Spider-Man 2 can even hit half of what Batman Arkham City was to Arkham Asylum, it will be a fucking banger game. Chris acts like I just said Arkham Asylum was the worst game of all time. All right, Chris, number 14. Number 14 is a very old game that I first played at the ripe age of 7 years old on the PlayStation 1.
Missed.
It is one of the most beloved games when people talk about games. It is one of the biggest reasons as to why a genre or subgenre of games exist right now.
Symphony of the Night?
Any idea? Symphony of the Night, baby.
Hell yeah. That's a good pick.
One of the all-time greats. This next game, there's no way it's not going to throw you for a loop, but I have an argument here. My number 13 is Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock. And the reason is that Guitar Hero 3, it encapsulates every great thing about rhythm gaming that existed while also capitalizing on making a video game. So it's kind of like what I was talking about with Portal 2, where Portal 2 was like, it's got to be a great game, it's got to be fun, but it's also got to be a good story. Guitar Hero is like, it's got to be a rhythm game, it's got to be this social phenomenon, but it's also got to be a great video game and not just be about playing along with songs that's challenging. And all of the boss fights in that game where the boss could like send over lefty flip mode to you and slow speed and all these different things was incredible and is the most engaging that any of those rhythm games have ever been. Killer list too. Fucking killer track list. So good. Next game is one of my favorite games of all time, and I cannot believe the remake has lingered in issues and problems for as long as it has. No, it is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Nice.
That game was, as far as I'm concerned, that game was for video games. Now, clearly there's another answer to this, but it's, in my opinion, it's a tie between Mad Max and Prince of Persia, to where they did for video games what The Matrix did for movies, where suddenly everybody's like, we've got to have one of these types of mechanics in our games. And those two games were a big reason. You got either time rewind mechanics or bullet time mechanics in so many games as a result of these two games. Now, Prince of Persia is the one that made the list, but great game. And I cannot wait to see a remake, hopefully done well. Number 11 comes in at the actual best From Software game of all time, Bloodborne.
That's fair. It's wrong, but fair.
Yeah, Bloodborne's incredible. If you need more than that, I don't know what to say. Saul's not here. He can't expound for me even further, as he always would gladly do. So, Chris, let's hear your 20.
Okay, I think this is where my list starts getting a little weird. But I think it's a great list. So this would be my pretentious Uncharted. Would you like to guess?
It sounds like it has to be Uncharted 4.
No.
But if it's Uncharted 1, dude.
No. Though, I do like Uncharted 1 the best out of all those games.
So you said it's not Uncharted 2.
No.
And you don't even like Uncharted 3. I don't think you've even beaten it.
I've never played it.
So what the hell? Oh, it's Lost Legacy, which is a fucking phenomenal game.
Uncharted Lost Legacy is number 20 on my list. That is the best
I don't
stories.
Begrudge it.
And quite frankly, my hottest take, the best Uncharted protagonist is Chloe Fraser.
Interesting. I love Chloe, so I'm not necessarily against that. Also, I just think that game finally found the perfect rhythm of a wider next-gen take on the Uncharted formula while not being as restrictive. Like 4 tried, and I won't say it failed, but it didn't really succeed either. It was just a little bit more of what you were used to. But yeah, Lost Legacy is awesome.
Yeah, huge fan. This is my weirdest, one of the weirder picks on my list. It's a PS2 game. Is also a baseball game, and it is MLB Slugfest 2004.
Nice.
Now, I don't know if anyone in the audience has ever played MLB Slugfest. It is fucking hilarious. Okay?
Yes, it is. One of the few games, I don't know if it was 03, but it was one of those, and it was a hilarious game. They're very fun.
03 is also funny, but this is the one that I have memories of. And I would recommend anyone who listens to this show go on YouTube and search up MLB 2004 announcers, because the announcers in that game are genuinely the funniest shit that's ever been in a video game before. The funniest shit of all time is those games.
Like Rockstar wishes that their radio commercials were that funny.
Yeah, because this isn't trying. Like, it's trying to be funny, but like doing it in a way, I don't know how to explain it. Just go listen to them. They're awesome. Me and my brother still play Slugfest games to this day. So this would be number 17? 19?
Mm-hmm.
Number 18. Number 18 on my list is a game that people either think is a 0 or a 10. And the game on my list is Deadly Premonition.
Oh yeah, that's a wild choice. I can't blame you, but that's wild
phenomenal choice. Video game. Okay, him getting clues and talking to his coffee, incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Brett, I wonder how you'll feel about the placement of this game. If you thought it would be higher or not. It's a little bikey bike video game called Days Gone. Has been disrespected in these Sony streets. That is why Jim Ryan got fired.
Restore the Days Gone-averse.
Taking over. First, quick tangent. What the fuck is with the NFT shit going on with John Garvin's new game? What the hell is that? Have you seen it? They're giving out tokens on Twitter. Dog, drop it.
Dude.
NFTs are literally worth $0.
I don't get it, but I also just don't care. If the game is good, even if it has NFTs, as long as they're not like so integral to the game that you have to buy them, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, for sure. It's just so cringe. That's it. It's just cringe. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of not cringe but cry, the next game on my list is the best God of War game. Another hot take.
All right, let me hear it.
God of War: Chains of Olympus.
Dude, Chains of Olympus is a fucking banger. Here's the thing, dude. It's probably going to blow someone's mind. God of War did not make my list at all.
That's kind of crazy.
And I really struggled because I was going between 2018 and God of War 3 and then Ghost of Sparta. Here's the thing. People can sulk all the shit they want and say that 2018 finally humanized Kratos. Bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Chains
God
of
War
Olympus.
1,
humanized
incredible.
Kratos.
Chains of Olympus, incredible. God of War 2, even that game has got plenty of redeeming moments for Kratos. Ghost of Sparta, holy shit. 3, by the time you get to 3, Kratos being a monster doesn't matter, but he still gets humanized. He still gets fucking humanized from Paradox. I'm saying the wrong name, but Pandora. Yeah, dude, incredible. And even the whole ending and what he chooses to do. I know I'm technically not wanting to spoil a 13-year-old game, 12-year-old game.
That part makes me cry.
Oh, I know, dude. It's so good.
This fucking goddamn camera. When I played that game, I still remember it. I played it on PSP, and I was in my bed. And what happens at the end of that game, I started just crying. It was
You didn't
so
want a
sad.
mass circle, did you?
No. And that's the only time I've ever cried in a video game.
Yeah, one of the best moments of the whole series. I'm not even remote.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, it's
what he
and
wants
also
to do
followed
versus
by
what he
some
has
brutal
to do.
shit, bro.
Oh yeah, that was
incredible.
Great. Got the platinum on PS3 during COVID, I believe.
Nice.
All right, Brett,
nice.
What's your last games?
All right, so games? 20 for me is Hades. I talked a lot about that game, and I need to play more of it and finally beat it. But I think Hades, whenever I was debating Hades, it was between whether I wanted Hades to be my kind of roguelite Metroidvania or if I wanted Dead Cells.
Dead Cells. It was almost
and the reason that Hades won out is because ultimately Hades does every single thing that Dead Cells does right, on top of having a very interesting and killer story with great performances and an interesting reason to pull forward.
Which
Dead
you
Cells
have still
is
not
so
seen,
fun
right?
that you keep playing. I haven't finished it all the way. I mean, I've gotten through a run like you're supposed to, but I haven't done the 10 perfect runs.
Yeah, that's okay.
So yeah, but to that end, I beat Dead Cells with 0 story drive. So take for that what you will, but I think Hades just does exactly the great thing and then amplifies it more. Next game is one of the best games ever made. Can't believe it just did not do well, but that's the life of the games industry. Dishonored 2. It has some of the absolute best game design. It is an incredible game. It did not get anything that I think it deserved, but what are you going to do about it? If you haven't played Dishonored 2, it's so cheap and easy to get. It's on Game Pass. You can get it on PS5 or not. You can get it on PS4, of course, but play on PS5. There's no reason not to play it. It's incredible. One of these days, Chris, I wonder if you'll play it.
Maybe. I've thought about it.
Yep. This is where, 18 for me is where I decided to land The Last of Us.
Okay.
Because I do think for what it did for the games industry as a whole, it brought a lot of maturity forward, and it kind of decided to take the games away from what I think a lot of PS3 games had started to become, and really capitalize on that. And it clearly painted the industry for the next generation. I think the entirety of the PS4 era's single-player games were very largely impacted by The Last of Us. I think that's kind of hard to argue at this point. 17? Yeah. 17 or 16. No, 17 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Okay.
There's a reason that game has been copied so many times by so many games. And it's funny because I really do think A Link to the Past is the best one. But the one that's most recent that I really love, and I think I may like the game more despite thinking that this is the right choice for the list, is it's basically a Link to the Past clone. And it's Adventure Time, The Nameless Kingdom. And it is so fucking good. It is so good. I got the platinum in it, and that is a copied game for a reason. It's a formula that works. It's fun. I wish Zelda would return to this. They're clearly not going to. I cry alone in my room. Number 16 is The Witcher 3. We've talked enough about it. I'm almost sad that I couldn't place it higher, but I couldn't in good conscience place it higher. Great game, though.
Fantastic game.
All right, last 5, quick fire.
All right,
they were this low in the list, so they don't need much talk.
One of mine might. I'm just going to go in regular order because that was very confusing for me to do the numbers. So, number 21, Marvel Snap. I've talked a lot about Marvel Snap. I'm a huge Marvel Snap guy. It was almost higher, and I decided to take it down to the bottom where it should be, with a little bit of that recency bias and a little bit of the, I think I like it. I think I play it as much as I do because my girlfriend plays it. So I had to dock some points off for getting me laid points, You get some points, so it's in the top 25, but, I still don't know if it's one of my favorite games just as a game. So 20, that still didn't help. 22. I'm surprised this isn't higher, so I think you might be surprised this isn't higher. And that would be Apex Legends, would be number 22.
You've kind of, every time you talk about Apex, it sounds like something that you used to love. It sounds like a lover that you used to love, and you wish you still did, but you remember the good times. That's like the way that you talk about it.
That's basically how I feel about it. Even every time I've tried to play recently, I've been like, okay, I wish I hadn't texted Sean because I don't want to play anymore. But but it's one of those things where I spent so much time and had my relationship with Sean probably is stronger because we played that game for 2,000 hours together over 3 years. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
So what you're saying to me, Chris, is that Triangle Squared PlayStation Podcast video game is probably one of your favorite games because our relationship wouldn't be the same without it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All those games. My favorite game that we play together is talking about playing games together. That's my favorite game that we share.
There we go.
So number 23 on my list is, I fought between two games here in the same franchise. I tried to have only one of each outside of, Mass Effect. I cheated, which is why Resident Evil 4 is also not on my list. And it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The old Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Okay.
The one
Great
where
campaign.
You had to have some balls to put on that goddamn Xbox headset, plug in your Xbox Wi-Fi adapter, and get going after school.
None of those things if you had a PlayStation.
So my notes.
I say on the podcast,
yeah, right.
On the PlayStation podcast.
I'm sorry to say, I was an Xbox guy until the PS4. My number 24 game was a game you thought would be in my top 5, and it's Death Stranding is number 24.
I mean, I know you love that game. If it didn't show up in your 25 at all, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, I do love Death Stranding. It's a great game. My number 25 game, I think, is the weirdest game that either of us is going to pick. Okay. My number 25 game is a DS title called WarioWare Touched.
Okay.
That is my number 25 game. Yeah.
Nice.
And that I think it's kind of a running theme with the bottom of my list, and that is more of a nostalgic game for me, where I remember the biggest thing that I remember about that game is having my DS, and me and my family were going on vacation, and we just passed the DS around playing WarioWare Touched the whole time. So I love WarioWare Touched, even if I only played it that one time. It was still a molding game, I think.
Oh yeah, that's why RuneScape should be in my top 25.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest with myself.
Play WarioWare Touch, it's awesome. I still am shocked. I feel like RuneScape should be on your list.
Here's the thing: it would immediately buck something out of the top 5. If it almost have to. You know how many hours I've sunk into my life. You know how many times, how many friends I've made in that, and how many friends that I've played games. Yeah, dude, that's such a hard game. I chose not to have any MMOs in this because Silk Road Online might show up in here somewhere. But okay, my number 21. Similar in terms of era it's trying to capture to your Pokemon choice. Mine is Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, which I think is pretty much interchangeable with Ruby. So fantastic game. I adore it. I think it maximizes the potential and the idea behind Pokemon without sacrificing too much of it like I feel like the modern entries have. And that's where I'm kind of at with it.
Okay.
So Alpha Sapphire, fantastic. My next game is a game I almost can't believe wasn't on yours.
Okay.
It falls right in line with some of my earliest games as being like such a story moment for games that I think it proves that games can be a lot more than what people sometimes think they can be. People point towards The Last of Us, and I do think The Last of Us is a good example of that. But before The Last of Us, there was Spec Ops: The Line.
I thought about it. I did think about it.
It is a fun game. It is. It's a well-made, well-thought-out, well-designed game with good enemy encounters. It's fucking brutally hard. And it has one of the most thought-provoking stories, I think, in the entire industry. I think it did, for war shooters, what it was actually aiming to do, where, I don't know if you remember that game. What
6 Days of Fallujah?
No, that game is supposed to be coming. But what was the one that THQ did that was a home...
Oh shit! Homeland? No.
Was it called? No, was it called? No, it's not called Homeland. What the hell was it? Homefront.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Homefront was supposed to be this like crazy brutal, the human cost of war game, and I think it missed that mark. And Spec Ops: The Line is one of those games that kind of flew under a lot of people's radar that hit that fucking mark so hard. And it's a great game for it. Number 23 for me, I really felt like I needed this game to be in here, and it is Little Big Planet 2. It is everything that Little Big Planet 1 was and more. And I think that the idea behind that, they out Nintendo. That is what happened. Say what you will about it, but they out Nintendo, and PlayStation somehow beat Nintendo to the idea of play, create, share. I don't know how it happened, but Sony saw Media Molecule and was like, yeah. And then Nintendo later was like, damn, we got to do that with Mario. And it was smart. I don't even blame them for stealing it because it's a good idea.
It is.
Little Big Planet 2 is some of the most fun I've ever had. Similar to your story about WarioWare, I had nights where me, my buddy Jonathan, and my buddy Blaze were cackling in our underwear, playing at 3 a.m. in the morning. I know, basketball with the random dudes on the mic laughing and crying, doing flips and hitting each other and stealing the ball. Some of the funniest shit I've ever done in my life, and also just a well-made game. Brought a lot of creativity out. It was what people love about Dreams so much longer ago. 24 is a game that almost feels cliche to put on there, but I feel like it's worth putting on there. It's Journey. But here's the thing about Journey. You can't say too much about Journey because Journey is only as good as you are ignorant to what it is.
Yep.
The moment that you know the shtick of Journey, I feel like it loses something. But here's the other thing about Journey. I will never play that game again.
Yep. 100% agree.
Not because I don't think it will be good. It's still a well-made game. But what makes the game live with you and stick with you is the experience of going through it and the discovery that comes alongside that. I don't think you can replicate it.
No, I've ironically, the only time I've ever played it again, this is actually kind of weird given what the game is, but the only time I played that game, the second time I played that game, sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit, was with my brother and this girl we used to hang out with, and she OD'd like a year, 2 years later, which is a little weird given that was the last time I saw her. We played fucking Journey and then she passed away. So,
wow, that feels, yeah.
So I will definitely never play Journey again.
Can't blame you on that one. Oh, man. All right. Number 25 for me is a game I talk about all the time in passing, and people probably wouldn't expect it to be in my top games of all time, but it is, and it is Tony Hawk's Underground.
Good call.
It is a fucking genre-defining game. It is one of those games that just lives throughout my childhood. I think about kickflip McTwisting over a helicopter at least once a day. I'm not even lying. It felt like watching what people probably feel like when they're watching Marvel movies now on PS2 as a kid. I felt like I was watching a superhero, but it was me. I was doing it. And then that bastard had the gall to say it was him. Fuck you, Eric Sparrow. Fuck you.
Is that the men think about the Roman Empire once a day for gamers?
Yes. Yeah. I think about kickflip McTwisting the helicopter.
Once a day.
And
do you think about the Roman Empire once
Eric
a day?
Sparrow. Probably not once a day, but I often find myself thinking about the Roman Empire. I won't lie.
Yeah. It's very important.
It's clearly a man-driven thing. Like whenever that came up, I was like, I mean, it's probably not every day, but yeah, I mean, like 3 times a week minimum. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never thought about the Roman Empire.
No, dude. But here's the thing. I like history. I like a lot of games and stuff that are around Greek and Roman mythology, which naturally drives you to think about the Roman Empire. Gladiator's a fucking balls out banger movie.
Never seen it. That's my biggest confession.
Watch Gladiator. It still holds up. It's so good. That blows my mind. Well, Chris, we are at the end of our Topster 25 list, and that means it's time to go into the sexiest part of the show. Are you ready?
Yeah, quick question for you.
Gotcha.
What game off your list would you most want me to play?
Oh, dude, good question. If I had to say one, I don't want to give you a game I don't think you're going to like. That's first and foremost.
Appreciate that.
So off of my list that I don't think you've actually played, that's where we get weird. I feel like you've played most of the list, right?
Solid amount.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, that's
my number one game.
Yeah,
is the game that you need to. And I say this with love. You need to fucking finish Silent Hill 2. But I won't begrudge you if you want to wait for the remake, assuming that they handle it right.
I'll play it on PS3. I'll do it. Fuck it. I'll do it.
Go for it.
All right, bet.
All right, there we go. Yeah, but Chris, I mean it. Play Shadow of the Colossus.
I'll play it. I have it downloaded. I think I downloaded it a while ago. I'll do it.
Dude, I feel strongly that it's right up your alley. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be very disappointed in myself.
I will try Shadow of the Colossus for you.
What game off of your list that I haven't played should I?
I mean, there's the obvious one.
Yeah, what is it?
It's Persona 5 Royal. That is the obvious pick. Both of our number ones. But I also don't think there's any other game on my list that you haven't played.
That you think I'd be likely to play? Because I mean, I hadn't played that baseball game. I played Slugfest.
Well, yeah. MVP Baseball is a PS2 game. I wouldn't expect you to play that nowadays. But I think for the most part, you've played all of them. Deadly Premonition, I would say, if you were like, I'll play Deadly Premonition, I would play it again just to do a spoiler chat. It's that good.
I've played it at a friend's house for a grand total of about 35 minutes.
Oh, Deadly Premonition, man.
I know a lot about it, but I've not beaten it or played it through a considerable chunk. Either of those things, you know?
Such a good game. Persona 5, I think, is the game on here that if you just shut the fuck up and played the game, you would like it.
You're probably right. If I started it now, I'd still be saying I'm playing it next February.
That's fine. Play the fucking game. It's a free platinum. You don't need to look up a guide. So there's one fucking roadblock out of the way for you.
I think it's a free platinum just because I don't have to look up a guide, Chris.
Well, you just have to beat the game, pretty much.
I mean, good on you for trying to sell the game. I get it.
No.
It's a free platinum.
Look, it's hard to fuck it up. Do all the social links. That's it. Marvel Snap is also on that list, but I wouldn't want you to play Marvel Snap for like one session. Like if you were going to play Marvel Snap, I'd be like, get into Marvel Snap. And like
you have to basically religiously play it for a few months.
I wouldn't even say like religiously, but I would say like, you know, get to the higher end decks, like, you know, get through the collection levels a little bit before you give up kind of thing. And that's fair. I know for a fact, I know you're not going to put the time in, even if I tell you it's good, because you won't play Persona 5, which is a 10, my favorite game of all time. And the co-host of the podcast I do won't even touch it. Keep in mind, until last year, it was a fucking PlayStation exclusive. So he had a job obligation to play it and refused to play it.
Listen, Chris, my number 2 game on my list you fucking hate.
Which was it again? Tell me again.
Nier Automata.
I fucking played it because he asked me to. You don't even get to play that card.
I asked if you wanted it to.
No, it was your turn to pick. Yes. And I said, fine, but I refused to buy it, so you bought it on PS3. That
is true. I held my end of the bargain up.
You did.
Which I guess you would do the same for Persona if I needed you to, but
I already own
you don't
2
have
editions, you motherfucker. You want to play the PS4 version or the PS5 version? It's there.
Listen, Chris, it is time, okay? Stop yelling at me and instead get sexy.
That part of getting sexy, don't you like getting yelled at?
Only by my wife.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
That turns me on, though.
Brett, take out the trash.
Oh. Is that a hot dog in my pants?
Why didn't you clean the drain of the kitchen sink?
You forgot to put the water up.
Because you fixed the toilet. Ooh. The toilet's running. You always forget to check the toilet when you stop pooping. What's the question for Velvet's Corner?
This week's game is called Qoutal Recall.
Oh, okay. That sounds
He's
sexual.
killing it with these names. I've collected some quotes from previous podcast episodes. You get 1 point for guessing who said the quote and 1 point for guessing what game they were talking about at the time. You will be going head-to-head on this one, and the loser must play the Callisto Protocol DLC. Good luck, gentlemen.
Fine. I'm okay.
Here we are, Chris.
The most okay I've ever been with a wager for Velvet's Corner.
Quote number 1.
All right.
Would someone not be divorced today if you sped up the animation for opening?
Wait, read it again.
Dude, this is so good. Would someone not be divorced today if you sped up the animation for opening drawers? This was Chris about Red Dead 2, and 100%. I know it.
We're full on in agreement. That was me. It sounds like one of my dumbass analogies.
Here's the thing, Velvet. I know that we talked about going head to head would probably be better if we disagreed, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you chose banger quotes like this is going to be a fun segment specifically just to hear dumb shit out of context.
That's why I loved the idea so much. I'm like, that's awesome. Go through and do it.
Dude, out of context, that is one of the funniest things I have ever read.
Thank you. Can we confirm? Is it me in Red Dead? I know
Answer,
it has to be Red
Chris,
Dead.
Red Dead 2, episode 272.
I'm going to need that list so I can go back and hear that quote.
In just 52 episodes, Chris has become a Red Dead advocate.
That's all it took. Holy fuck.
Ooh.
That
Chris,
is,
we both got a point. We both got 2 points.
Do you realize that 1 year, exactly 1 year from this episode, I was talking shit about Red Dead 2?
Yep, that sounds right.
The episode where I said Red Dead 3 is my number 3 game of all time, exactly 1 year ago, somebody, I don't even understand where that quote comes from.
Chris, I almost wish you still hated Red Dead 2 so we could make a shirt that just said, quote, would someone not be divorced today if you'd sped up the animation for opening drawers?
I would still wear that shirt. It's just a picture of Arthur opening a drawer in the back of it.
No, so that's on the front, and then the back is just Dutch being like, open the drawer. Arthur's, I'm trying, Dutch.
My big booty, the clapping of my big booty cheeks alerted the Driscolls.
All right, quote number 2. If
oh God.
It feels
oh no.
It feels like you're Charles Darwin out there.
That's you. It's got to be you.
This feels like me talking about that game from the creator of Rayman where you play as the ape and you evolve through. I can't think of the name of the game right now.
I think it was Humankind or no, that's a different game. I don't know. Ancestry.
And Ancestor, something like that. Yeah. All right, let's see. Brett, Pokemon Arceus, episode 266. That is correct. I did say that because one of the things I love about Arceus is the feeling that of all the Pokemon games that have been telling me since I was 6 that I'm supposed to go out there and discover the wide world of Pokemon, all I do is battle one and then I know everything about the Pokemon in one. And because this computer already knew it all, basically, is what it was. And so Arceus finally realized the potential of Pokemon being like go out and discover the world. That's a good quote. I like that. That's a good quote.
Read the quote
again.
So
it feels like you're Charles Darwin out there.
Okay,
so you thought it was me as well.
I did.
But I was wrong on the game. Both of us were. So we both got a point.
Yep, we'll take
Chris, do you realize there's a really high potential that we both have to play the Callisto Protocol DLC?
That's fine. Which means, all right. The more annoying part is I have to download it and put a disc in. Fuck, I have to put a disc in. All right, continue.
Quote number 3.
Okay.
Nothing feels as good, you should take this as a compliment, as seeing you prove yourself so fucking wrong again and again.
That was you.
That is clearly me. Has to be. And it has to be about you. But here's the answer.
It's about Red Dead, Witcher, or Outer Worlds. It's one of those 3.
That's the thing. I feel like he may have gone a little deeper cut. But he also may be trying to, because right now he's kind of going 272, 266. He may be talking about one a little more recent, which would be Red Dead, because that's, or no, actually, Witcher is the most recent game of those 3. Recent. I'm going to go deep cut and say Outer Worlds.
I'm saying Witcher.
Let's find out. Brett, Witcher 3, episode 313. Chris, you have taken the lead. And it was exactly what I thought. It's a newer episode.
Yeah.
Ooh, Chris, you should take that as a compliment.
I'm taking it as a compliment.
Quote number 4. You're going through this like really intense battle, and then this crazy thing happens that's going to kill you. And he does a backflip off the wall for no fucking reason. I think
me, Resident Evil 4. That's me. It's Resident Evil 4 because I know exactly the scene that I'm talking about.
Yeah, this is definitely you and definitely Resident Evil. Oh. Chris, Resident Evil 4, episode 302. Chris, you were still one up on me. Quote number 5. Quote number 5. Like 7 foot tall, huge boobs, and then like the most ripped 8-pack I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my god. I'm gonna go with you, but
7 foot tall, huge boobs, and then like the most ripped 8-pack.
Okay, I got it. It's you talking about Conan Exiles.
That might be right.
Because we were talking about my character when I made her the naked chick with the gigantic tits, and she was 80 feet tall. It's that. It's you talking about Conan.
Unfortunately, Chris, I agree with you entirely. Brett, Conan Exiles, episode 281.
Nailed it.
Dude, out of context, these are the greatest.
It's so funny.
Quote number 6. I've been breeding gorillas for 2 days and it hasn't happened.
It's me, and it's talking about let's build a zoo.
Yeah, it was when you were in that weird let's build a zoo kick.
Great game.
Did you ever get the platinum?
No, it's so annoying.
Do you remember the conversation we had about whether or not you could have the rabbit pen be beside so that you could just keep feeding? Oh, it's Chris. Let's build a zoo, episode 292. I got to see if I can get the edge on Chris. Quote number 7. I don't understand why there's this gigantic titted witch on the thing.
That sounds like you. Oh man, that's hard because it would. I don't know the game that would be about.
Gigantic titted witch on the thing.
Very descriptive. I don't know. I'm blanking on this one. This is your chance to take the lead.
What game had a witch?
I'm gonna go with you, but I don't know the game.
This sounds like me thinking through. I can definitely hear myself say this, but for me to get the point, I've got to guess the game. So I'm trying to think of what game had a gigantic titted witch, and was it? Am I saying I don't understand why it was on like the cover or something because it wasn't actually in the game? Gigantic titted witch. Dude, I have zero clue.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Part of me wants to say Nobody Saves the World just because it feels like something weird that would be in that game.
I don't
think that's actually the answer.
Big titty witches in that one.
Hold on. This is where knowledge on something would actually help. I may be completely wrong here. Isn't there... and this would switch it for me, which may not be where it's at. But here's the thing, Chris. As much as I can see myself saying that, I could see you saying this as well. That's the problem.
The thing is, I think we have 2 different speaking styles, and I think I would have said that much more descriptively. Not even shit talking you, but I think I would have done it for the comedy.
You might have, but isn't there like a really big titted witch that's part of One Piece somehow, some way?
You're right. It's me talking about One Piece Odyssey.
So fuck. Now we agree. Damn it.
Yeah, it's me talking about One Piece Odyssey.
Because, yeah, Odyssey was that game that came out like late last year, right?
Yeah, because I was saying I didn't know the character, so I had to stop playing the game. And there's the only character I knew was the giant titted witch who shows up. Yep, it's me talking about One Piece Odyssey.
One Piece Odyssey. Okay, let's find out. Chris, One Piece Odyssey episode 291.
I still can't.
Quote number 8 is a short one. Holy shit. Okay, let's find out. You are a You are a saucy little gnome.
That's you talking about Baldur's Gate 3.
Me talking about Baldur's Gate 3, yeah. Brett, Baldur's Gate 3, episode 320.
This is great. Do this every week. This is fucking hilarious.
Quote number 9. She is straight up made for foot fetishists. This is Chris, and I'm not going to say anything else until you say something. I will not give my answer until you give yours.
I remember saying it. That's the problem, but I'm trying to remember what I said it about. Oh, Street Fighter 6.
Damn it. I was really hoping you wouldn't remember it. But it is definitely you talking about Street Fighter 6. Chris, Street Fighter 6, episode 309. All right. Quote number 10, the final quote of the show, where I can potentially win back if I'm at all lucky enough.
No, you would just tie. You can't win.
Yeah, I would tie. That's fine. Well,
yeah.
No, if you guess the wrong person and the wrong game, I can get 2 points.
So what you're saying is I should just abstain. Play for the tie.
Quote number 10 is, you want to feel that tension of like, she could kick my ass at any moment. I think I know what this is.
I abstain. I don't remember. This feels like me or you. It feels like you. No, it feels like me.
Lock your answer in, then I'll give you mine.
My answer is I don't remember.
So what does that mean?
That means I don't lose or gain a point, so just die.
Chris, you know this is going to make me win if you don't give anything. What? You're up by 1 point. If I get both who said it and the game right, if I get it right, I'm pretty sure I know who this is and what it's about. If I get it right, I'll be up by 1 point.
No, you'll tie.
No, you're up. You get 1 point for the person and 1 point for the game. If you don't guess on either, you're only up by 1 point. I will get 2 points.
I'll just go with the 50-50. So read it again for me.
You want to feel that tension of like, she could kick my ass at any moment.
I'm going to go with you.
Okay. Do you have any idea on game, just out of curiosity at this point?
No.
All right. So you're locked in, right?
Yeah, it's you.
It is me, and I am 99% sure this is about Lilith and Diablo 4.
Yeah, I can see that. No, okay.
The moment of truth is here. You ready?
Yeah.
Brett, Diablo 4, episode 309. Oh, the same episode that you said the Street Fighter thing.
Hell yeah. That makes sense.
I think it was in the same conversation. We were talking about women in video games.
Oh, shit. Yeah. So we tie, right?
We tied.
Hell
so, Chris, I guess we've got to play the DLC for the Callisto.
All right, I'll message Blake that he also has to play it, and then we can just do it.
We can do a revisioning of the spoiler chats. Yeah. Oh, Velvet. Thank you. I want you to know I did not expect to lose it immediately to would someone not be divorced today if you had sped up the animation for opening drawers. And that is genuinely great.
I will say, I'm surprised at one thing.
Yeah.
And I am surprised that he didn't throw the curveball of curveballs, and one of these answers was Saul.
I think he probably would have considered that to not be too fair.
It wouldn't be fair because I would have no fucking clue. But that would have been a curveball.
That would have been so funny because I would have probably won that one.
Oh,
I know most of Saul's quoted things because much like you were talking, I think of the three of us, Saul may have the most distinct way of talking. The way he would have chosen to word this would have been very over the top.
Saul, if you're listening, I'd like you to take the first quote and say it however the fuck you would say that. And Brett, I need you to say it however you would say it. That'll be the new intro for the show.
So, Chris, what do you think the best quote of this entire thing is? If we had to choose one.
Can you read them again quick? Give us a recap.
Would someone not be divorced today if you'd sped up the animation for opening drawers?
I need to hear the context. I'm going to listen to that after this.
So that's episode 272 for your records.
Thank you.
It feels like you're Charles Darwin out there.
Yeah, it's solid.
Nothing feels as good. You should take this as a compliment as seeing you prove yourself so fucking wrong again and again. I'm partial to that one.
That one's good in context, but I don't think out of context it's as funny.
You're going through this like really intense battle, and then this crazy thing happens that's going to kill you, and he does a backflip off the wall for no fucking reason. So it's a John Woo movie.
Basically.
Like 7 foot tall, huge boobs, and then like the most ripped 8-pack I've ever seen in my life. Okay, that one's tied with the first one for now.
I was thinking the same. Yeah,
I've been breeding gorillas for 2 days, and it hasn't happened.
That one's the best without context because that one just sounds insane.
I don't know. Does that really sound more insane than if they'd sped up the animation for opening drawers? Like, Chris, what's funny is I even understand what you mean, and that is kind of an obnoxious part of Red Dead 2, but it's also like the most insane thing to say.
I just want to know why I said it that way more than anything else.
I think the reason you said it that way is because, as we've talked about, sometimes you not liking games just becomes a meme. And you just start playing into it. And it's not even about you not liking the game anymore. It's just finding some way you can say something to rile someone up.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
All right. I don't understand why there's just gigantic titted witch on the thing. This one's pretty good. You are a saucy little gnome.
That one is really good. I would get that on a shirt.
I'm going to go call my wife that when we get done in here. Just to see what the response is. I'll let you know.
Next week's episode is being delayed because Brett is getting divorced.
Quote number 9, she is straight up made for foot fetishes.
That one's pretty good. I'm going to be honest, that one's solid.
And the final quote, you want to feel that tension of like, she could kick my ass at any moment.
It's got to be number 1. Number 1.
I got to agree with you. Something about number 1 just hits, but a very close tie for me is the most ripped 8-pack I've ever seen in my life.
I think it's number 1 and it's the Gorillas one. Those are the two for me that...
Gorillas is also really good. Velvet, thank you for an excellent game. Qoutal Recall, everyone. Keep killing it with these name puns. I love this.
This is really good.
Great game. Good way to come back. I guess we'll be playing the Callisto Protocol DLC. The luck that you wished us was not well. I guess either we both got lucky because we're both having to play.
Well, here's the thing. We tied, so we both won. So don't neither of us have to play it?
Yeah, but neither of us won. We tied.
Velvet, you listen. You're the judge.
Velvet decides.
Tell Brett what we have to do.
This is your game. So you tell us who plays it, if anybody. Which, I mean, clearly it's either both of us or none of us at this point. All right. Well, Chris, we may not have disagreed a whole lot, but that was a fun walk down memory lane. So I can't wait to see what you come up with for next week, Velvet. We appreciate you. Glad that you help us do this Velvet's Corner. So we're going to round off the sexiest part of the show. Velvet's Corner. And Chris.
Yeah.
What are we thinking for the community's take? You think we want to go back towards how people are feeling kind of over Sony and the very out there in the news trouble that Naughty Dog's having, and whether or not that's causing fear for the games as a service? You want to talk about
I feel like
Jim
we've
Ryan,
had that conversation. I feel
that's fair.
Let's go with how do you feel about Jim? Give us a grade for Jim Ryan's tenure.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, how have you felt about Jim Ryan as he's gone along? All right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining me as always. Thanks for joining me and saying some of the stupidest shit every episode so that game can happen. Undoubtedly, I like to think that somewhere in this episode we've given a banger quote that we will one day hear. I almost want to start going back and listening to the episodes now just to hear what crazy shit has come out of our mouths. I don't normally do that.
Too. I have to know. I have to know why I said it.
Yeah, you were really on one. You were really railing against the game that day.
Probably.
So, yeah, I'd be curious to see what you think about it. But thanks, everybody. If you want to support the show with more than just your time, then head over to patreon.com/Nartech. Give us a little $1 per month. If you want to be part of the community's take, head over to our social media sites where you can find us on Twitter, or at least what was formerly known as Twitter, X at Triangle SQRD. You can find us in the Facebook group, Triangle Square to PlayStation Podcast, or you can click the link down in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast services, to jump into the Discord where you can join me and many of the other listeners, as well as Chris, in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment conversations. We hope to see you there, but if that's not your speed, we understand. We'll be back next week for episode 325, Chris. We're flying through them. Excuse me. So, without further ado, for our patrons who have done so much to help support this show and keep it going without us digging into our own pocket, we always shout them out at the end of the episode as a thank you. So, to that end, we'd like to shout out Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Easton328, Aztec King, Lecheon69, The Lord Corgi, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Cypher Primus, Kyle Grimm, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Biliobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, Donovan Williams, Matthew Green, and Sean Santarud. Thanks to each and every one of you. See you next week.